Yes, it's that time again. hmm Yes, indeedy. Crackdown alert. That's what we're talking about here. Korea immigration, visa overstays, ban, fine, jail, permanent ban. I mean, what can happen if you overstay in Korea? A lot of bad things, apparently. Just like when any other country, it seems a little while ago, overstaying your visa or doing visa border runs where you misuse a tourist visa to stay in a country and then you go to another country for a day or not even a day and come back and get another 90-day or 60-day or 30-day tourist visa, and you use that to stay in the country, not for tourism, but to stay in the country to kind of retire. Many people have done this with Thailand or many other countries. And unfortunately, this is called the visa run, is a border run. And it was a gray area that it was exploited for a number of decades. And like I said in previous videos, over the years, I said and called it that countries are going to crack down on their immigration laws when it comes to visas and border runs and overstays and illegal immigration. In other words, you come to a country outside of the bounds of the laws, immigration laws. And that can be very problematic. In the past, it was kind of like, no big deal. You know, Thailand, there was tons of people that would overstay their visas. Philippines, this, that, so many other countries. And Japan, and it just ended up, nobody really cared. But it ends up that people are caring. And I said people would care, and they're cracking down. Van Nomadic pops up and says, "What's going on, Steve?" Oh, yes, thank you. A lot of stuff going on. Immigration, crackdowns in many different countries. And unfortunately, I've had some people contact me for various reasons. I'm not going to use their names. I'm not going to put their information out onto the interwebs. But it's kind of problematic. And let's just say, let's make up a character. And the character contacts me and says, "Hey, I'm trying to stay in Korea. My significant other is able to stay because they have a visa, but they don't have a visa, so they're using a tourist visa." Excuse me. And then when their tourist visa time is over, they go to Japan or some other country, they dip, and then they come back to Korea to get another 90-day extension for the sole purpose not of tourism, but abusing the tourism visa system to stay in Korea, and that seems to be a thing. And it's really, really strange because I've had a few people contact me about this. Another person was an individual. The other person that contacted me, I still don't know if they're married. Another individual, their spouse has an F4 visa, kind of like my wife has an F4 visa. I have an F1, which has now been renamed as an F3 visa. But all of this revolves around immigration visas, tourist visas, border runs, to get away from not applying for a regular visa, education visa, work visa, nomadic, that digital nomad thing, or work stay, work vacation visa, where you can work part-time in Korea for a year. People are trying to skirt the system. And those discussions are really interesting because you don't get the full information. And it's like, Korea's not letting me stay. And it's like, well, what do you mean not letting me stay? Well, they denied me entry. And there's crackdown. And is Korea really cracking down on immigration overstays or the abuse of the tourist visas? And so, I say, well, yes, of course they are. Just like many other countries, you look at Thailand and a number of other places, these people are cracking down big time. And so, but the thing is, you don't hear a lot about Korea. There's a couple of reasons for it. Korea is not a retirement-friendly destination like Thailand or Philippines or, so many other countries, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, things like that, where it is really easy to get a retirement visa, and the income requirements are low. Korea does have a retirement visa. It's more of an investment visa, but you're talking about investing $500,000 or more, and that doesn't include your property that you're going to live in. So again, it's way out of the bounds of normal people like me. Okay, and unfortunately, there's people that will try to skirt the system to stay in Korea. But for some reason, the one thing I have noticed is that all of these people that have contacted me recently and in the past are kind of like, well, Korea isn't cracking down, and I beg to differ. By the way, my name is Steve. I'm the retired hobby tech guy, American expat here in Korea. I've retired in Korea. No, I didn't invest $500,000 or $1 million in Korea. I use that term loosely because my wife has Korean ancestry, so she has an F4 visa, and I have the F1 visa that has been renamed as an F3. I don't know why they change the names all the time. It's the exact same thing. So I have my visa attached to my wife through her visa. So I'm the spouse of her, and that's how we get to stay in Korea. Totally legit, totally above board, within our rights. We're dotting the T's and crossing the I's, or vice versa, whatever it is. The T gut, the neons, and whatever it is. We're doing everything above board to stay in Korea, and we meet the income requirements. We have to do tax documents and savings and all, for tax documents for 3 years, savings account and banks and statements for a year, all that stuff. So we are good to go. We don't have any dog in this fight, but we have done everything legally, so we don't have to look over our shoulder. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are looking over their shoulder, and they think that Korea is exempt from this immigration crackdown like other countries are experiencing. They're not. And we're going to take a look at this. And before we do, if you could do me a favor, could you press the like button on this video? If, it would help me out a lot. I would really, really appreciate that. So anyway, we're going to just jump into this, and we see an article here that talks about boom, boom, boom. Oh, illegal immigration residents in Korea fall below 400,000 for the first time in 4 years after the crackdowns. And this is in February of 2025. They're continuing, but this is the first one, and I called this before. This came out, actually years before, that countries would crack down on their immigration, and that's what we end up seeing. So according to this, at the time frame, a number of illegal foreign residents in Korea fell below 400,000 for the first time in 4 years, following intensified crackdowns of government's 5-year reduction plan. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. According to the number of undocumented workers, was around 410,000 in 2022, peaked around 430 in 2023, due to an increase in foreign workers and international students. However, as of January, it dipped down to 394,000. Since 2023, authorities have strengthened enforcement through continuous monitoring and regular joint crackdowns with police and other agencies. As a result, the number of illegal foreign residents has decreased. Last year alone, 2 large-scale government-led crackdowns and regular crackdowns led to a record high 45,442 foreign residents being apprehended. Additionally, authorities cracked down on brokers in illegal employment and immigration and prosecuted 318 individuals and 27 arrests. Employers who hired documented workers were also targeted, with approximately 9,000 violators fined a total of 50 billion. Won, which is like 34 million. So for the people that are saying, oh, well, Korea doesn't punish the employers who hired these illegal immigrants, into their country. Yes, they do. Okay. So let's just get that out of the way. It is in 2023, 46,229 undocumented workers left the country, a 7.3% increase from the previous year. So what we're seeing is more, and this is continuing. Again, this is part of a 5-year plan of Korea, and it's going to continue because when you have so many undocumented workers or undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants, they're not in the country according to the immigration laws of Korea. What they're finding is an increase in crime. They're finding that labor laws are being violated. Labor laws are being broken by employers who are hiring these people because they're not paying them as much. There's a lot of abuse of these undocumented people in Korea. And then there's also the criminal element that pops into Korea as well, where crime increases. So let's get to some comments. Retirement in Korea for foreigners is possible. A connection to an ethnic Korean marriage is the route. Other requirements also apply. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah. And I wouldn't really call it retirement. It's just returning Koreans and their spouses, which I guess you could call that retirement if you have the money to support yourself and not work. Under the F1 visa that I have, I'm not allowed to work for a Korean employer. So, yeah. Now, if I start an espresso coffee shop, cafe thing, or whatever it is, if I did something like that under my visa, I would be in violation, and that could be problematic. For my wife, on the other hand, she has the F4 visa. She is allowed to work in Korea for a Korean employer, or if she wanted to start a business, whatever it is, that is totally acceptable. So know your P's and Q's, okay? Know the information. It's better to ask permission than forgiveness in this case. And we'll see why when we get to the penalties for breaking immigration laws here in Korea. So yeah, that's kind of a thing there. Let's see, who else do we got? George pops in and says howdy. Hey, yeah, George is here. Got some good people here already. And we're going to jump right next into the next little bit here, specifically for foreigners, and I'm kind of looking at Westerners, just kind of in a broad scope, who come to Korea. You can come as a tourist, you can check out Korea, take a bunch of photos, selfies, whatever, eat some hanwoo, go to Seoul Tower, Namsan Tower, or whatever, and Lotte World and Busan, and, just live it up, see some temples and all that, Gyeongbuk Palace, and then you can go and be on your way. The problem are the Westerners that come on a tourist visa and then leave Korea after 90 days and then come back and stay another 90 days. They go to Japan or whatever, take a little cruise, and then, they do that over and over and over again because really, let's face it, they can't get a regular visa. And we're going to look into some of the reasons for visa rejections. And when you have Westerners or people that can't get regular visas, either work or education or work stay or digital nomad or whatever, and those are rejected, there's a problem. That is indicative of most likely a legal problem within their past that Korea says, hey, for whatever reason, our laws say that you can't have committed these crimes or have a record or whatever it is, and you fall within that category, so we're not going to give you said visa. So that's usually when people will try to abuse the tourist visa system. So yeah, it is what it is. Another question, Nedventive says, so you can or cannot be self-employed? That is a very good question because there's so much to unpack in that question. Now, let's say I had a remote job and I work in the United States. I'm employed by an employer in the United States, and I do remote work on my computer, and I'm paid by a U.S. employer. I can do that as an F1 visa holder. No problem. The problem comes when we're talking about self-employed in Korea. My F1 visa does not allow me to work. In other words, I can't start a business. I can't be self-employed in Korea, selling to Koreans and making profit in Korea. Okay, it's not a thing. So again, there's these little intricacies about self-employment, who you're being employed by, how you're being paid, who you're being paid by, that will determine on whether your self-employment is allowed or whether it's not. Let's say I have an Etsy store. I know a lot of things are digital these days. Let's say I do modeling and I have an Etsy store, and that is primarily in the United States, and I sell and I'm paid that way. Okay, now we're getting to that line where it's like, well, you live in Korea and you do the work in Korea. I haven't seen anything saying that you can't do that. It's kind of a questionable area, and it's just kind of a one-off thing. I mean, how many people are going to be selling on Etsy, digital files or digital information and stuff like that? So they're self-employed, but they're self-employed primarily through the United States. They're paid with a employer in the United States, a paycheck that gets deposited into their account. The main thing that I see, excuse me, with the Korean employment or self-employment is if you're selling to Koreans, if you're working for a Korean employer, you're getting profit, and you under the visa that I have, I wouldn't be able to do it. My wife would be able to do that, but I wouldn't be able to do that. So I hope that clears up that question of can you or can you not be self-employed. It really depends on who pays you and who you're working for. But with an F1 visa, you cannot be gainfully employed by a Korean employer. And we'll just kind of leave it at that. You'll have to get more information through a Korean immigration lawyer and ask questions, say, hey, well, if I do this or this, they can kind of give you a better detailed answer in regards to your specific situation. George says, people acting like jackasses, it is kind of hard not to see this coming. Yeah, it's kind of a thing. Yongin Sa De Hengnim says, I want to come back to Korea sometime. I miss the fast life. Yeah, it can be fast here in Korea. That's absolutely sure. Yeah, it is. It's quite the thing, and it looks like you're Korean or have some Korean ancestry. So, I mean, for returning Koreans, let's say you went to the United States or you went to some other country and became a citizen of that country, Korea does allow and have that F4 visa for people of Korean ancestry to return to Korea on that visa. Also says, my dog is sick. Oh, no. And can only get an appointment in 2 weeks in America. Oh, well, I hope your dog gets better. I'm a dog person myself. I don't have a dog, but I'm a dog person. So one day, I will get a dog. I really want a dog. But yeah, it is. That's some of the people acting stupid who have done stupid in their past that was serious enough to not allow them to get a regular visa here in Korea. Those are the people that will abuse the system, the tourist visa, and doing border runs or visa runs. For those of you who don't know, a border run is, say, for example, I come to Korea. I've got some problems, and in my past, sold meth, crack, got arrested a bunch of times or whatever. Let's say I can make it here. I can't get any other visa because of the background checks, but I could come on a tourist visa. So whatever legal problems that I had in the past that prevented me from getting a normal visa in Korea, I can get a tourist visa. So let's say it's 90 days. In the United States, usually it's 90 days in Korea. Then what I would do is I'd take a ferry or a plane and go to Japan for maybe a day, just go outside of Korea, boom, get the passport stamped, come back to Korea, boom, I get stamped, I get another 90 days. Usually what happens in the past is that was just kind of looked at as, do whatever you want. Yeah, no problem. 90-day visa, you went to Japan, you come back, you're going to do another 90 days. Nobody really cares, But because Korea is losing out on tax money, because if you stay in Korea and you're not a tourist, they're losing tax revenue. And in some cases, some people that are staying in Korea are scamming the system. They're doing work that they're not supposed to be doing. Maybe they're involved in criminal activity, or getting, some type of welfare through various means or whatever that is meant for Korean citizens and not people that are skirting the system. So Korea's saying, hey, we need to crack down on, it's like a bucket full of holes. The water is pouring out, and they're saying, well, hey, we need to plug the holes in this bucket because we're losing money. And one of those ways is to do that by enforcing immigration laws. And that's what Korea is doing right now. Corsair says, can I volunteer my considerable talents down at the senior center or local high school? Yeah, there's a lot of volunteer opportunities around this area, and there's a lot of foreigners that volunteer to help teach conversational English. Volunteering is it's with orphanages or clean up things in the environment. I've seen a lot of those things as long as you're a volunteer and you're not being paid. So yeah, you can volunteer to your heart's delight. You could start your own volunteer program. Maybe picking up trash on mountain hiking or whatever. It is, you can do all that. Let's see, what has it got? It says, if it was in Korea, it would take a day to make an appointment for a vet. If I was in Korea, it would take a day to make an appointment for a vet. Yeah, I mean, and I think that would be dependent on where you are in Korea. And how busy everybody is. I know in the area that I'm at, there's a lot of people that have pets and dogs, and there's local vets, and they seem to be pretty good. There's gotten some real good reviews on a number of veterinary clinics, emergencies, and been able to get surgeries for their animals and pets and whatever. So other places, maybe they're busy. So yeah, I get it. It's you got to take time off from work and do this and that and find a vet. Little, calling around or seeing reviews. Again, you want to get good quality service, for your pets and everything. But yeah, it can take some time. Corsair says, if I was on F1, which is the plan? Oh, okay. Yeah, if you're on an F1 visa, which is now changed the name to an F3 visa, it still means the same thing. Same definition, same income requirements. They just changed the name from every once in a while. It doesn't make sense. Just leave it. Leave it alone. It is. But yes, you would be able to volunteer. There's a number of volunteers on Camp Humphreys and other military bases that do volunteer work on post and off post as well. So yeah, it's yeah. Not on the vet on Camp Humphreys, though. Yeah, that's true. So I guess there is a vet clinic on Camp Humphreys, but when you have 35,000 people that work, soldiers, their families, and all those pets and associated, you're going to have a huge schedule at that vet clinic. So yeah, you would probably have to go off post and find a clinic off post to be able to help with your needs there. It says America is better for dogs to run around in fields, but Korea is better for vet services. America is so big, though. It really does. I mean, there are some places where in cities and stuff like that, sprawling cities, there are no parks or you have to travel to a park, but there's a lot of rural areas and things like that. And there's country. I mean, yeah. And generally, people house themselves in houses, whereas in Korea, the main housing is apartment complexes. So yeah, there's definitely, it seems to be more dog friendly in the United States than in Korea. But Koreans love their dogs. They love their dogs. Oh my gosh. I see dogs in baby strollers. I see them dressed up with coats and jackets, and people carry them around in bags and the whole 9 yards, and they're so cute and fluffy. They're always the little poodle things. There are some bigger dogs. But yeah, they spoil the crap out of their little fur family buddies there. So it's at the end, and a lot of couples are having animals rather than children. So, which, potty train a dog is pretty quick compared to a kid. You can leave your dog home alone. Kid, not so much. It's just maybe there's more benefits to having a dog or an animal than a kid. But yeah, there's that. Getting back to the immigration crackdown, some of the reasons for visa rejections. Now, these are going to be some common sense things that we're going to take a look at. So, for example, on your application timing. Timing is crucial. So, in other words, if you have a tourist visa or visitor visa, give yourself, 10 to 12 working days. Express visa, 5 to 8 working days. Again, time is on your side, so it's better to apply for these things early. And now you have the electronic visas and all that stuff. It's really not that bad of a thing. You've got some things here. Incomplete application forms is what you'll end up seeing. If the form is not filled out correctly, if your name isn't the exact same as it is in your passport, and we're talking about like Wilson, Stephen, Michael. That's what it says on my passport. But if I fill out some forms where I say Stephen Michael Wilson, or Wilson Michael Stephen, or Wilson Stephen Michael, and I put a comma in there when on my passport there is no comma, that can cause some problems with your immigration paperwork. So yeah, it all has to be the same. And even when you do online shopping, it is, it is really, really rough. So, and we'll get to some comments right after I get over this. Again, make sure your name, application mode, whether it's download, print, or filing. And I know some people will go back and they'll redo it. And again, if you put a different name or the name's in a different order, or you use apostrophes or special characters that are not on your passport, that will jam you up. Visa interviews go wrong. Usually when we talk about doing travel to Korea, you don't really have interviews anymore. And it's, but I guess it happens from time to time. Maybe they'll pull somebody aside, say, hey, you're here for travel. Usually you go through the line, you give them the visa. Hey, what are you here for? Travel, tourist, whatever. Boom, and you go. Unless you have been flagged, you can be pulled into an interview room, and that's where they're going to ask you some of these pointed questions, like what is the purpose of your visit? How are you going to finance your trip? How much money do you have? What ties to whatever country? In this case, it's India. Do you have a return ticket? What is your detailed itinerary? Do you have contacts or friends in South Korea? You're going to get a lot of this stuff, questions that you'll need to answer, and you better have the right answers. For the majority of people like you and me, we're normal, good, decent human beings. And if we're there for tourist activities, we're there for tourist activities. But if you've had some legal problems in the past that have prevented you, or you're doing something illegal, or, whatever it is, for whatever reason, the red flag that popped up, if you get pulled aside for an interview, that means something's not right, generally in Korea. Okay. And I've traveled to Korea numerous times, in many other countries, and they only stop you if there's a problem. That's all I'm saying. There is the random checks and whatever. In all my years, and I'm 59 years old, I think I've been pulled in once, and to where they ask me questions, and it's just like, no big deal. And I think honestly is because at the one time I was sweating, I had a fever, I wasn't feeling good, and I was hungover, I was single at the time. And so I kind of looked out of sorts at everything. And so that's why they probably pulled me aside. That's my guess. But I haven't had any legal problems. Big thing, insufficient funds. Some countries will ask for your insurance information and health insurance. Well, what happens for this or that? For Korea, traveling and visiting, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. I don't know. It's always good to have a little bit of travel insurance just in case. If your regular insurance isn't going to cover you for overseas destinations. Luckily, for being a retired veteran, my health insurance, I can go to a Korean hospital and I can be covered with my insurance. So that has never been an issue for me. So, the biggest thing is just possible visa violations in your past from other countries, because now other countries are becoming interconnected with other countries. They're sharing the information, like joint databases for deportations, entry bans, legal processes or consequences that you've gone through problems and you have problems in one other country, that could pop up in other countries. And when you come to Korea. So as we continue on over time, what we're going to end up seeing is we're going to see more interconnectivity between countries. And if you were stupid in another country, that might have an effect on whether you get to come or stay in another country. So, just be a good, normal, law-abiding, decent human being, and you shouldn't have any problems. So, other things that pop into play are your home country. And usually when I'm talking about Westerners, there's not really a big problem with that but when you're talking about countries that have political, problems going on, or wars, or terrorist or something like that, something undesirable, that can make a difference on, it's a consideration. It's another variable of being accepted into another country. And those things change. I mean, look at what has happened in Thailand. Look at what has happened in Vietnam and Cambodia, where Koreans have been abducted or whatever. They put travel advisories against those countries, saying Koreans don't go to these countries or these areas. Maybe it's because there's war, instability between a couple of neighboring countries that you're trying to go to, and they could say, well, you're having so many problems with, this and crime and this and that, that they could take an extra look at the people that are trying to come to Korea. Again, it's just, that's kind of rare, but again, that would be outside the scope of Western countries. So let's catch up on some comments here. We got one with the dog. The dog's 11 years old. Back and forth to Korea and America. Korea 5 years, USA 6. Been living in Korea with the dog. It sucked because my dog has to go potty outside. But if you live in Camp Humphreys, you've got a lot of wide open spaces. Yeah. Unless you train your dog to use the potty, that might be a worthwhile endeavor. I don't know. Or you could come up with some type of potty pad toilet thing that the dog could do his business, and then it could flush it on its own. You train your dog to do that. There's an idea. You can make a lot of money. Corsair says, was there on vacay last month? So many doggy strollers. Stupid. But I get it. It seems stupid, but as I get older, the more I don't want to deal with people, so I totally appreciate the dog and the pet thing. The old person and their little dog, and they're talking, come on, God, here we go. These stupid people coming, I totally get it. I mean, it is odd, but younger and younger people are getting animals and they're carrying around in strollers, which is very different than the United States. I'm not going to say it's stupid, but I'm just going to say it's different. And I personally wouldn't do it, but, it is what it is. I just applied for citizenship in America because I feel more American than Korean, and my husband is retiring in 2 years. You are living my dream, basically. We think about going back to Korea. Okay, well, cool. Yeah, it is. My wife became an American citizen many, many years ago. She was born and raised in Korea, the whole 9 yards. We did all that. We saw each other across a crowded room. We fell in love. It's been 35 plus years. And I was the one that actually came up with the idea of retiring in Korea and retiring overseas, and it ended up being Korea. But that really allowed us to retire early, which was great for us. And then we can be around her family. And things are less expensive for us here in Korea than it is in the United States. We're saving about half of what we were spending. So, but again, that required, paying off our house, being fiscally responsible, saving money for retirement and whatever, and all that. But it's pretty good. We enjoyed it. We're not regretting it at all. But the U.S. citizenship does have its benefits, which is good. But you can also, again, get that F4 visa with your Korean ancestry. And then the other thing that pops up is when you hit age 65, you're eligible to apply for dual citizenship. So you could have Korean and U.S. citizenship once you hit age 65, which you get the best of both worlds. But there are some cons to that as well. But generally, for most people, it's not a big deal. Being a green card holder for 10 years, it's hard to live back and forth in Korea and the USA. I know. Because and I even feel like that. My wife feels like that. We feel like we don't belong in the United States, but then we don't feel like we belong in Korea. But we can kind of be in both, if that makes sense. It's kind of like we're detached from both. We belong to both, but we're still not fully in it, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's quite an interesting thing. Uh, Having a doggy stroller in Korea is genius. Too many cars, narrow roads to walk dogs. Yeah, it could be. Depends on where you live. That's true. There's some big cities that have some huge, like Asan Technical Valley, which is about 10 or 15, 20 minutes away from Camp Humphreys. Newer city, Godok, which is where the Samsung factory is being made. It is gigantic. That is a sprawling city, huge sidewalks everywhere, parks, and the whole 9 yards. So it really kind of depends on where you go. Other thing is, I miss Korean medical system as well. Yeah, it's. I've gotten real good medical care here in Korea, and we've talked about that in the past as well. Of course, in the outlying areas, the further away from the big cities you get, the hospitals are going to not be as up to date as the ones you'll find in Seoul, like Samsung Medical Center or St. Mary's, or even Pyeongtaek Hospital with Good Morning Hospital. If you go to some of the outlying places, yeah, you'll get a different care. But overall, there's a longer life expectancy with Korean healthcare system, and it's 100% coverage. Whereas in the United States, we have the Affordable Care Act, which is neither affordable or caring. It is very limited, and it only applied to 24 million people out of 350. So it doesn't even give coverage. And you have problems with being denied insurance still. You have problems with pre-existing issues and medical issues that you have. You can be denied. It's just a pain in the butt. And the premiums have been going up every single year. Compared to Korea, you do Korean National Health Insurance Service, and it is really good. And again, it's 100% coverage. So, yeah, it is really good, really good. Talking about dogs. Actually, a lot of ladies have started strollers in America too, but people look at me weird whenever I have my dog in a stroller in America. Yeah, I can see that. It's still weird for me. It's odd. I don't think I don't look down on anybody for using a stroller to wheel their dogs around or dog or whatever, but it just kind of makes me wonder if the dog is ever sitting there man, I wish I could run. I don't know. I got a question. How often do you go back to the USA and visit your family? We've been here just over 3 years, and we are not planning to go back to the United States. There's nothing there for us. Do have one family member that I might go back for if there's a medical emergency or anything. But other than that, I'm not planning on going back to the United States. There's nothing there. Housing's too expensive. I got a myriad of reasons of why, but we're not going back. So yeah, it is. It's a thing. We do have our daughter, and our daughter is in the United States military. She's a doctor, and she's actually here in Korea, so we get to see her a lot. And then, so obviously she's older, and eventually, she'll get married and do her doctor thing and be married to whoever she marries, and they'll be doing their thing together, probably in the United States. We might go back and visit for that, but right now everything is still up in the air, and there's probably within next 5 years, I don't see us going back to the States within the next 5 years. I don't see it. Now, if they get married, my daughter gets married, then obviously we'll go back for that. But as it stands now, yeah, it's not a thing. Do you sell seed something and earn $350 in CDK4 project? I have no idea what that is. And if you're trying to sell me on something and get some free advertising, that's a one quick ticket to being banned from my channel. So no spam, please. Appreciate that, Carrie. I have no idea what you're talking about, and so we'll just leave it at that. Okay, next one pops up and says, my husband is the same. He doesn't really have family members in the USA, even if he was born in America. That's why we think going back to live in Korea. And it takes it takes a different type of person to retire overseas just doing that. But when you come to a place like Korea, a homogenous society where the majority is Korean, imagine that, I'm the foreigner, you have to be able to be fine with being alone. So with me and my wife just being together, I have very limited, very, very limited number of friends. I don't mind being alone, and it's not a big deal. I'm not a big social butterfly like some people are in the United States. They belong to the Kiwanis Club or this club or that or this or whatever. And so their identity is really wrapped around all of these activities and the social things that they do. Here in Korea, you're not going to find a lot of that for foreigners. And probably the biggest reason why you're going to be a little bit alone, whether you retire in Korea or some other country, is you're going to be retired. The majority of the people in Korea or any other country that you retire to are going to be working. So you're going to be in a small niche. And when you limit yourself to being a foreigner in a foreign country, you're going to be a little bit more isolated than the average retiree of that country. So unless you are like really on top with your Korean language and you want to go on hiking trips with Korean groups of, ajumas and adishis and whatever, grandpa and grandmas and whatever, to do all that and fully immerse yourself. Most of the people like me, United States citizens who come over here to retire, aren't really of that ilk. And so we're okay with being alone. We're okay with, maybe doing some volunteer stuff or, doing some stuff on Camp Humphreys or a military base from time to time. But really, it doesn't bother us to be alone. So let's see, what else do we got? My husband is the same. Doesn't have family members. Yeah, going back to Korea. However, I have my whole Korean family in Korea. Yeah, wife here. Says I'm a loner too. As long as you have your wife and you have each other, you don't get lonely in Korea. That's absolutely true. At least what we found. So yeah, there's that. Let's get on to the. Let me see if I can find it. Travel restrictions after deportation for overstay in South Korea. We're going to talk about that a little bit. George pops up and says, under the visa system, able to own property in both countries and use as rental properties. This is an interesting question. I purchased the apartment that we're living in now. So the myth that foreigners can't own property in Korea, you can. Now, recently, Korea has put some obstacles or extra saying that foreigners can't buy certain properties within the areas of Seoul, and we're talking about Gangnam. We're talking about the super expensive places where you're spending, multi-million dollars for condos, because they want to help, I guess, not drive up property prices. So they want to try to restrict that a little bit. So they do that by restricting the amount of properties being sold to foreigners, rich foreigners, which I'm not. So, I don't got to worry about that. But areas outside of that, there's no problem whatsoever. But with that, under the visa system, if we bought a property and then we rented it out, that is very interesting because people have rented properties out and they're able to pay taxes. And there's a small line between working in Korea for a Korean employer versus having an investment property and renting that property out and gaining profit through that way. One, you're working for a company, you're getting paid by Koreans and all that stuff. The other one is an investment property. And so, yeah, you're getting paid by a Korean, but it's not a Korean business. So again, there are very fine lines that you need to look at, and highly suggest contacting the lawyer and immigration lawyer and all that to get the most up-to-date information. But as of right now, I would be able to buy an apartment and rent it out, and I would, as long as I pay taxes, because I'm getting that profit or getting money here in Korea, I'm responsible for paying taxes in Korea. Which begs the question, what about taxes in the United States? Would I get double dinged for taxes? No. because if I pay taxes here in Korea, that would often equate to that same amount being a tax credit on my federal income tax returns, because Korea and the United States have a tax treaty with each other. So if you pay tax in the United States, you'll get a credit in Korea, or if you're in Korea and you do that, you'll get a tax credit on your federal returns that way. So it's kind of a reciprocal type of thing. Nedvendiv says, so rentals are not self-employment. Again, it's a real fine line when you talk about self-employment. Usually that kind of implies that you start a business, that you're selling, things like that. It's different than investment real estate. In investment real estate, you have a number of foreigners who have bought properties in Korea. China is probably one of the biggest buyers of Korean property that there are. And some of them they're not even in Korea. They buy property sight unseen in Jeju-do and Seoul, and then they rent those out, and it seems to be okay. So it's not really considered self-employment per se as a business, but more of an investment type of activity, which you're allowed to do so far. So, do you sell crypto wallets on the, nope. We're going to get banned, boom, banned, bye. And since the carry was popping up, we'll just go ahead and do that one for that band carry for the Seed CD4K whatever I project. So yeah, see ya. Told you not to do the spam thing. Told you. Didn't listen. If you appreciate me dealing with spammers and banning them from the stream, give me a like. I would appreciate that. So let's get back to visa overstays, travel restrictions, and things like that. One of the interesting things is I found is that foreign countries are now posting this on their government websites, referring to overstaying in Korea and some of the problems. The implications, and the punishments that you can incur for doing such things. So let's dip into that. So for example, back in October, which is only October 19th this year, this is from the Philippine government, and it ends up travel restrictions after deportation for overstay in South Korea. Implications for Filipino nationals. Now you might be wondering, well, why am I looking at this for Philippine nationals? Because Korea does employ a lot of foreign nationals, and they're trying to push for more and more Filipinos. Great, hardworking people, and we're having a super age society here in Korea, so a lot of manual labor. They're farming that out, pun intended, to foreign nationals, and one of those nations is the Philippines. But this is an interesting thing because this and some other countries have posted similar information about Korea. So let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Deportation to South Korea is overstays a serious immigration violation and carries long-term consequences for foreign nationals, including those in the Philippines. As bilateral relations between Philippines and South Korea continues through trade, tourism, labor, instances of overstaying of workers, students, and tourists has become a noticeable concern. So they go through here and they talk about this. With a focus, it covers deportation process, entry bans, re-entry procedures, broader travel implications, and potential remedies drawing from South Korean immigration laws and their interplay with Philippine regulations. So the Immigration Control Act, as seen here, governs the entry, stay, and departure of foreigners. Overstaying a visa, defined as remaining in the country beyond the authorized period without extension or change of status, is considered illegal stay under the laws of Korea. For Filipino nationals who enter Korea under visa waiver programs, up to 59 days for tourism, short-term visas, or an employment permits like employment permit system for migrant workers, overstaying triggers enforcement actions. And this is going to trickle down not just for employment and labor, but for tourism as well. Upon detection through immigration checks, employment raids, and voluntary surrender, the individual may face fines ranging from 1 million won to 20 million won. Depending on the duration of stay. So there's going to be a tiered response to this. On how long you overstay, the more fines you're going to get. It could be detention. Temporarily holding in an immigration detention center can last for days to months while deportation proceedings are processed. Deportation order issued by the Ministry of Justice leading to forced removal from the country, often at the individual's expense. So yeah, it's the duration of the bans. You can also get banned from Korea as well. So short overstays, less than 3 months, typically is a 1-year ban from the date of departure. Moderate overstays, 3 to 6 months, could be a 2 to 3 year ban. Extended over 6 months could be a 5-year ban, or indefinite in cases involving additional violations like illegal employment or criminal activity. So, yeah, you need to be careful. Aggravating factors. This is probably the worst one. If the overstays involves invasion of authority, use of false documents, repeat offenses, the ban could be extended to 10 years or become permanent. And also including the aggravating factors would also being criminal offenses, violence, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, it could be bad if you do this. They talk about future travel plans and applications, impact on South Korean visas. Filipinos can have 59-day visa free for tourism, but deportation revokes this privilege during the ban period. Talks about some other stuff there, travel restrictions and so on and so forth. You can appeal the process of overstays or whatever. They do have that here in Korea. But yeah, you're going to have proof of remorse or compliance or repayment of fines, supporting documents, clean criminal record post-deportation, processing time is 1 to 3 months, and it's going to require a fee of 60,000 won. So there are some ways in which you can appeal decisions in Korea if you overstayed your visa, but yeah, you're going to have some issues. And that appeal process is going to take some time, it's going to take some money. And again, depending on the amount of time that you overstayed your visa, will depend on how much money you got to pay. And whereas in the past, you didn't hear a lot about this. Matter of fact, barely anybody cared about overstaying because it was like, you do a border run, no big deal, whatever, 3, 4, or 5 times. There's people who have been in Korea that I've known from years ago that had stayed in Korea and abused the tourist visa system extensively. And now they can't do it. Now, my wife was just telling me that she saw something about Korean immigration that you can do a tourist, extended stay 2 times and then that's it. And other countries are doing the same thing, like Philippines, Thailand. If you end up and it's like, hey, you're here for 90 days, you dip back to another country, and then you come back to try to get another 90 days. Some countries are capping it twice, 2 times, and that's all you get. And so you have people, there's people in Thailand who have done and stayed in Thailand for 10, 15 years, and now they go to do their visa run, their border run, they come back, and they have been rejected. They've been denied entry from the country, and that's going to continue on. In Korea, you never heard about this stuff, and it was rarely enforced. But now, because it costs money, they're enforcing the laws, and we're going to see a lot of this stuff. We got a question. I actually gave up my green card before I permanently moved back to Korea. Then I met my soldier husband and had to get a green card again. I'm so tired of the immigration stuff. I know, right? That we experienced the same thing. A little bit of information on us, background. Me and my wife got married. She was a Korean citizen. We flew into Los Angeles International Airport. So, of course, with her being a Korean citizen, we're married. Okay, no problem. Submit all our paperwork at the port of entry. Problem was, we were going to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. 7-8 day drive across the United States. But in Fort Campbell, that's a different immigration office. That one, for covering that area, is found in Texas. So on the West Coast, it's there in California. So when we submitted all our documents and then we finally ended up at Fort Campbell, immigration, lost paperwork, the whole nine yards. It took numerous years. It's like the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. It was a total mess. Eventually, we just going back and forth, and both immigration offices were blaming each other. No, it's your fault. It's your fault. You sent it. No, we didn't send it. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. Until finally, we had to get with legal on Fort Campbell, redid the paperwork, the whole nine yards, and eventually, yeah, it's we just forget it. We'll just do, the green card stuff. We were there. She was there legally, and then finally she decided to become a U.S. citizen. That was a lot easier. Hell, that was than dealing with the changing offices of immigration for the green card thing. So I totally get that. Says I'm so jealous of dual citizenship, Korean and American. Yeah, there's talks. Korea's been talking about changing the age from 65 to 55, but it's just rumor and talk. Nothing solid. There's no indicators saying that they're going to drop the age limit or credible information. So right now it's currently 65. So if you're close to that, that's good. If you got a few years, yeah. George says, are there exceptions for, say, an illness or injury that causes an overstay? Natural disasters do happen. Yeah, you can appeal. You can put in extensions and things like that. For medical emergencies, obviously, you would have to get with an immigration lawyer and say, hey, listen, I came down with, cancer or whatever it is, I was hit by a car or, whatever. And I'm in the hospital, I'm going to go past my visa. You can get extensions to do that. So you need to be proactive. Don't do the overstay and just not say anything. If you know that you're going to overstay, contact Korean immigration and they'll work with you. So generally, if you work with them beforehand and you're proactive, I haven't had or heard of anybody having problems. You're in a car accident or whatever, and you can't. We totally get it. We'll help you out. And Korean immigration lawyers are pretty good as well, so they can work on your behalf. And again, a simple extension. Again, things happen, and so they'll work with you. So that's not like the hard nosed. Oh, you're here. You had an accident. You overstayed, and we're going to throw you in jail. No, might have to pay a fine. But they could take that into consideration. But the best thing is to be proactive. So, yeah. Terry pops in, says, hey, we got lucky. Our first base after Korea was in California, so my wife's green card went smoothly. Yeah, ours didn't. Holy crow. It was like getting blood from a turnip. It was absolutely insane. But, and then when she got that, it was numerous years that she was on a green card and then finally became a U.S. citizen. It was really easy for her to get her citizenship and be naturalized. So since we're kind of talking about immigration, I know it's a big topic in the United States. Oh, people, illegal immigrants and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, just do it legally. I don't understand. It's actually pretty darn easy. And my wife went through it, and it's not that hard. And so when, I see these stories online talking about, they've been here in the United States for 20, 30 years, and now they got deported back to, whatever country. And it's like, you had 20, 30 years to apply. How many administrations have we had in 30 years? You've had conservatives, you've had Democrat, you've had, varying degrees on left or right or whatever, but all during those times, pretty much you could apply and it's not a big deal. But let's face it, there's 365 days a year, and let's multiply that by 30 years. That means you had 10,950 days in which you could apply, put in the paperwork, and get your citizenship, and yet these people didn't do it. I just don't get it. Anyway, that's just me. I feel as an American citizen, and I'm proud to be an American citizen, and my family came from Europe to the United States. They immigrated, followed the laws, the whole nine yards, on my dad's side, my mom's side, and their families all came from Europe and the whole 9 yards. So, if you follow the rules and apply and do all that stuff, you're good to go. You're more than welcome to go. But there is something to be said for having standards and letting people into your country that are good and productive people, good citizens, versus those who aren't. Excuse me. Yeah. So a lot of interesting things. We're going to talk about some other stuff here. Very, very interesting stuff. Here we're going to talk about the penalties for overstaying in Korea, and this is it. We're going to go over a series of slides here. Korean immigration handles enforcement, which can lead to fines, detention, deportation, and re-entry bans. Penalties vary based on an overstay duration, first time versus repeat offenders, and circumstances like illegal work or criminal activities, and so on and so forth. As of November 2025, no major changes have been reported from the 2024 guidelines, but verify with the Korean immigration. So we're going to take a look at some of the penalties here, which we see here. The overstay duration for the first 10 days, warning, no fine, as it is now. Possible short detention. Usually you're encouraged to self-deport, go back to your home country and say, hey, you overstayed. No ban is if this is resolved quickly. So there's that. When you get into longer overstays, there seems to be more problems. And one thing that should be noted about Korea is that with their laws and their jail time and fines and things like that, you'll have a minimum, you'll have a maximum. But for the most part, as a rule of thumb, Korea is really hesitant on giving the max sentencing unless it's extremely violent or an extreme, very extreme case. So keep that in mind when we're looking at some of these penalties, because you might be, oh, well, that's terrible. And it's like, they don't necessarily go the max charges. With that said, I'm going to leave myself an out. With Korea cracking down on overstays and immigration problems and so on and so forth, that's not a guarantee that they won't put the max fines on there. Back in the past, it wasn't a big deal. It's, we'll slide the fine, no big deal. But now, since they're really cracking down on it, there is a good possibility that, they'll just fine you the total amount. So my advice, don't overstay. Or if you do overstay, be proactive about it and get an extension. If we look at the 11 to 30 days, you're talking about 2 to 5 million won, which could be anywhere from $1,500 to $3,700, depending on the exchange rate. Your mileage may vary. Deportation order, 30 to 60 days with a reentry ban. Fines accumulate daily, and you must pay prior to departure. Okay, we're getting up there. If you overstay 31 to 90 days, now you're looking at a fine of 3,700 to 7,400 USD, 100,000 won per day. Yeah, that's going to add up. Detention can be up to 30 days, 90 days, 90-day or 6-month ban. So there's that. Higher if tied to illegal work. It also affects future visa applications and things like that. Now, the big one that we get into is when we get to overstays of over 91 days. You're talking months and years, and so you're talking 10 to 30 million won, which is about $7,400 to $22,000, plus daily accruals of $100,000 or 100,000 won per day. Compulsory deportation, 6 months to 10-year ban, permanent for aggravated cases. And includes cases with criminal links, employer fines if applicable, because Korea does punish people and employers who break the labor laws by hiring people that aren't in Korea legally. So there's all that comes into play. Other things, fines are calculated per day of overstay, capped at 30 million won total for most cases, paid at the immigration office or the airports upon exiting. Unpaid fines lead to permanent bans. So even if you have a small fine, if you don't pay it, you can get a permanent ban. And so there have been people that have said, no, they won't permanently ban you because it's a short stay. There's determining factors, and one of those is whether you pay those fines or not. So just be a good, normal human being and don't overstay. Detention and deportation can be held in immigration facilities up to 30 to 60 days while waiting deportation. Cost flights are borne by the individual. Voluntary departure, self-reporting can reduce the severity, no fine or short ban if under 90 days. So again, Korea is pretty lenient when it comes in the past. And even now, if you self-report, that goes a long way. It's kind of like putting in a letter of remorse if you committed a crime here in Korea, and do that as soon as possible. The courts will look on you more favorably, and you won't have to pay as big a fine or do as much prison time or whatever, or a combination of the two. Reentry bans. Automatic for overstays of greater than 30 days. Length depends on violation severity. Bans are recorded in global systems impacting visas worldwide. Appeals are possible. Aggravating factors are the following. Legal employment, forgery, or repeat offense increased penalties, 5 to 10 year bans, amnesty periods, post-COVID, occasionally waive fines, but not bans. So in regards to the question we had with the, what happens if you're sick or a natural disaster or another COVID crazy thing pops up? Korea does take that into account for overstays, and they're flexible with that. So again, don't think that they're absolutely crazy. Let's take a little question here, and question from this person: do you know Trump? No, I do not, and I'm an independent. So I like ideas from both sides as long as they're rooted in common sense. Yeah, okay, let's continue on. So we talked about that. Some of the next things we're going to look at: abuse of tourist visas, doing visa or border runs. This, again, like I said, there are people that have contacted me that for whatever reason, they don't have regular visas here in Korea, so they're doing tourist visas, and they do border runs, and Korea is clamping down on those. Frequent short exits, like to Japan for 1 or 2 days to reset that 90-day visa-free stays. Again, that we're talking in the context of U.S. citizens, are increasingly scrutinized as abuse under the 2025 immigration law enforcement, if detected via entry and exit records. Treated as an intent to overstay, leading to immediate denial of entry or retroactive fines or bans, 6 to 12 months minimum. I told you they're cracking down, and I said they'd be cracking down, and this is a big crackdown compared to what they did before, which wasn't much of anything. Visa-exempt travelers, the U.S., EU risk KETA revocation. So in other words, the electronic tourist application that can be revoked so that you can no longer do that. In the 24 to 25 crackdowns, 159,000 visa-exempt overstays were targeted with raids on repeat entrants. So again, this is something that Korea is really concerned with, and a lot of other countries are really concerned with it as well. We talked about Thailand. Thailand's just a whole bunch of mess going on in Thailand. The problems with Thailand and Cambodia, the military problems that they have along that huge stretch of border, travel advisories in the U.S. that don't go anywhere near there. Thailand immigration is very problematic. The country is not really stable politically, and we're seeing there's just a lot of problems with Thailand and immigration. Thailand banks are closing people who have valid visas in Thailand, and so their accounts are frozen. They can't pay their bills. Seems like immigration changes from 1 week to the next. It is just so many problems. And I think Thailand is a day late and a dollar short to enforcing their immigration laws. And it's got to the point of where Thailand used to be the place to retire. And now it has so many undesirables. And now the country is in such a mess. And that has had an effect on tourism to where now there's a lot of people that just don't want to go to Thailand because of all the problems, especially in retirement. So take that into play. It says, I'm Korean, sir. I like Trump. Cool. Okay. That's absolutely good. We've got people who like both sides of the coin. And here in Korea, for those of you who know, there's a lot of Koreans that like Trump. There's a lot of people that don't. You'll see demonstrations on both, but there's more people that like Trump than don't like Trump, at least in regards to the demonstrations that I've seen. And yeah, but either way, it doesn't really have much to do with the immigration that we're talking about, but it can have an effect on immigration on what other countries do. Because some countries are saying, hey, we got problems between you and us. We're going to limit and we'll do a travel advisory against your country or vice versa. And that can cause some diplomatic problems, which could relate in economic problems and tourism problems and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, it's I like good ideas from both sides. Let's see, what to do if overstaying. If you find yourself in a case of where you're overstaying your visa here in Korea, the most important thing is don't do it. Okay? Be proactive, put in the extensions before you actually overstay. But if you do, hey, we've got another one. We've got another ban. Congratulations, Seymour. You've just been banned for that little thing there. Boom. Bam. See ya, banned. Spammers, just gotta love them. It's kind of like whack-a-mole, when you got the hammer and you bam and bam, bam, bam. So far, I'm 100%. I am awesome at that. So, yeah, don't spam. You'll be gone. Self-reporting is so important. You should plan ahead and not have to self-report, but if for some strange reason you just overstayed because you weren't paying attention, self-report immediately to Korean immigration for voluntary departure. And what that will end up doing when you self-report, you can avoid detention. You can most likely avoid fines, depending on how long the overstay is, which we talked about. And you can minimize travel bans and future problems with application of visas in Korea. So, yeah, there's that whole thing there. Seek extensions, apply up to 2 weeks before you're expired. And it's going to be 50 to 100,000 won, which isn't going to be much. And we've got another one. Monty comes up with a comment about crypto something. Boom, bam, zip, zing, he is out of here. See ya. Still 100%. Let's see. So, yeah, you can do your legal extension. We got a comment here that says, I'm not a troll. Okay, great. Awesome. I didn't say you were. Glad you're on the stream. I appreciate it and making it clear that you're not a troll, and I don't think you are. It was the other people that were throwing out the crypto things that we got going on. Yeah, so, yeah, it is just George pops up and says, yeah, they're popping up everywhere. I saw one on a cooking stream. Yeah, it's just all bots. It's probably not a real person, but I still get a kick out of banning them, so it's fine. But back to the overstays. Legal aid. Contact your embassy or non-government office like a migrant center for assistance. Many countries will have offices that help with migrants or people that overstay, but generally, just get with the Korean immigration if you overstayed here in Korea, and get with your embassy and work it as quick as possible, please, because that's the best way that you can deal with that. Post-deportation, bans start from the departure date. Reapply for visas after expired, but be sure to disclose your history. These details are based on the 2025 guidelines. Consult official sources for personal advice. And really, that's what it comes down to. Yeah. So Korea is cracking down on the immigration, the visa overstays, which can lead to bans, fines, jail time, or all three. Again, they have a tiered system of response. And generally, if it's a short overstay and you immediately self-report, you probably won't have to pay any fines. If you do overstay and you leave and then you try to apply to Korea, and since now that they have a global system, a database, that might affect, depending on the length of your overstay, and if you're a repeat offender for overstaying, that could cause possible denials for visas in Korea and also other countries. So again, overstays are very serious. If you're going to go to another country, first of all, be a good, decent human being. And then after that, don't overstay. Follow the rules and enjoy the country that you're in and the people, and learn the language, have the food, and just have some fun with it. But for the people that have contacted me that have said, hey, I can't, for whatever reason, they won't explain why they can't get a normal Korean visa, and they're abusing the tourist, visas by doing these border runs. Just know, y'all, and I'm not calling out any names. I'm not going to reveal anybody because I appreciate that. They came to me knowing that, and I told them I wouldn't, use names or anything like that. But there are people are contacting me about this, and it's like as if I know some secret code to get around, the overstay thing. And it's like, no, I don't. I follow the rules. But that begs the question, if you are trying to skirt the system by abusing the tourist visa, that means that you're prevented from getting a regular visa, which tells me there is some bigger fish that have been fried in your past that is keeping you from doing that. And again, the only advice that I have for you all is to contact your embassy, contact Korean immigration, Korean government, Korean immigration lawyer, so that you can get some professional expert advice, because I'm not a professional. Let's face it. I'm only sharing the experiences and the information that I've gone through. It doesn't constitute any legal professional advice in any way, shape, or form. So this is just entertainment, okay? But hopefully it'll help answer some questions with people that might be concerned with overstays or some of the intricacies or the details when it comes to tourist visas and immigration and how Korea is cracking down. And hopefully I've been able to answer some of those questions. So, yeah, that's what we got done. That's what we got. So if we got any other questions, pop those up into the comment section. I'll take a look at them. If you're spamming, yeah, I'm going to ban you 100%. But that's what we got going on. So we got a lot of people in here. I appreciate all the likes. And if we nailed some spammers, we did that. We talked about the crackdown here in Korea and other countries. And let's see if we get some more comments. George pops up and says, let's see if we can make this a little bigger. People messing around are going to make it so I can't get a visa one day for a tour of historical sites. It's always the idiots that cause problems for everybody else. But if you're doing what's right and you're a good, decent human being, I don't think you'll have any problems with not being able to tour historical sites, unless bad people just make an ass of themselves and they close down the historical sites. Got a question. Live in America? No, I live in Korea. Actually, I'm close to Pyeongtaek and Onjeongni, so we've been here just over 3 years. So we live here in South Korea, and we love it. It's really good. Love the food, love the people. Of course, my wife's Korean, so, I'm a little bit biased, to that. And we've been together for over 35 years now. So it only feels like 15, but together 35 years. She's awesome. She's incredible. And love her to death. She's just love it. And being afforded the opportunity to retire early by retiring overseas, it has lifted such a huge weight off of me. Before, when I was in the United States, working and in a job that just sucked the life out of me, and seeing that with the ever-increasing expenses and the huge increase in expenses in the United States, you're doing the projections saying, okay, well, this is going up this much average, every year, and this is going up, and this is going up, and all of this. It didn't look like I would be able to retire until my late 60s, maybe 70. And even then, it was questionable. So it was like, And then there's life expectancy. So do I retire at 70 and maybe get 5 years or so? I don't know. Would I even make it? In the industry that I was working in, working for the state of Colorado, we had people that died on the job and never able to retire. And so when we found out that we could basically live in Korea, and we have enough funds and to do that through military retirement and some other things that we have, and to meet the income requirements to support ourselves here in Korea and some other countries, making that trade for, I could make more money if I stayed in the United States and worked until I was almost 70, or I retire early and just be comfortable with what we end up having and have a stress-free life and be able to enjoy a longer retirement time. That seemed like a no-brainer for me, or for us, definitely for me, and the wife enjoys it too. So, it's just been really, really good. It was a really good decision for us. George says, is like one day I want to go to Europe and take a trip from Omaha Beach to Berlin, going all the way to all of the battlefield museums. Wow, that would be a cool trip. Yeah. So many people have things that they want to do. And if you wait too long, you might not be able to do them. And so that's the thing that I like about overseas retirement is the reduced expenses that you have that frees up time to go do things like that. Neverton Murr pops in and says, hey, greetings, Steve. Today's topics are timely and address pressing concerns. I appreciate your dedication to addressing significant issues regarding sojourns in the Republic of South Korea. Yeah, it's good. Like having you aboard as well. So, and just trying to get out the information, that a lot of people think that, visa overstays, border runs, it's no big deal. Well, back in the day, it probably wasn't a big deal. Just like teaching English in Korea without your ESL certificate or degrees or whatever, those requirements wasn't really a big deal. And people would do border runs on that, and it was no big deal. But now it is a big deal. It is a big deal. And they're clamping down on that. And, you have to have your certificates, and you have to have the work visa, and you have to have all these things, if you're going to do that. It's no longer like it was, a couple of decades ago where it was just kind of like the Wild West. You just show up and you could do whatever you want. More and more countries are becoming interconnected, and they're enforcing immigration laws, whereas before, it's a law, but we don't enforce it. Go ahead, do your border run as much as you want. Yeah, those days are gone, my friend. Sparky pops up and says, hey, Steve, some good info for the people. Oh, thank you. Thanks for stopping by and watching. It's good stuff. You got the question that says, boom, let's see, you from where in America, sir? I was born in the United States in Colorado and did military time, and eventually I came back to Colorado, and that's where I retired from the military, was in Colorado, and then lived and worked there, and then decided to retire early, and so Another question, you like to go to the gym? Oh yes, I am very gym person. Yeah, I go 4 days a week, and not only for physical fitness, but for also my mental health, more importantly. So that comes into play. Got some mental issues. Surprise, surprise, what are the odds? But I find that going to the gym and working out really helps, deal with those issues I have. And it is very vital for me to go to the gym. George pops up and says, Japan has really cracked down on immigration. That is true. Their whole, we talked about this before, and how Japan is cracking down on their businesses, their business visas, specifically for the Chinese. I think it was 20,000 Chinese who have business visas. What they ended up doing is basically, it was like you pay $35,000, you start a business in Japan, and basically a lot of people were abusing that visa system as well. in order to get free schooling, subsidies for housing and welfare and so on and so forth under the guise that they had a business. But a lot of them were fake businesses. A lot of them were, and now Japan, what they ended up doing is saying they raised the income levels. So instead of just 35,000, now it's like 200 or 250,000. You have to make X million yen per year. You have to employ a Japanese citizen. You have these other requirements. It can't be a paper business anymore. And so that affects like 20,000 applicants. And so Japan is getting really serious on immigration as well. And Japan doesn't have a retirement visa like Thailand or, Philippines or things like that as well. So when I see a lot of stuff talking about, oh, you can buy property in Japan, well, yeah, you can. It's just the long-term staying in Japan is a problem. So either you got to have some type of educational visa or work visa, kind of like here in Korea. It's kind of similar in that aspect in regards to visas. There's inexpensive housing there because they're a super age society, which, there's some opportunities there. There's some opportunities here as well. But again, it's the visa system. And especially now that they're clamping down on the, the border runs and tourist visa abuse, it's going to be a thing. MC pops in and says, hey, my disability is only 20%. I wish mine was that. I wish I could retire early. Yeah, it was a lot of grinding, honestly. We did years and years of savings, throwing extra money on our mortgage. I mean, this wasn't just something that we just kind of popped up and said, hey, we're going to retire early. We did a lot of stuff to try to just retire normally. And our biggest thing was buying real estate. So we would buy the worst house on the block. We'd use our VA certificate, my VA certificate for that, and get into the house. And it was, the worst house on the block. We would live in it and fix it up at the same time, which was honestly a pain in the butt a lot of the times. And then we live in it for 2 or more years, and then we turn around and sell the property, and then we make a profit, always making sure that we made profit. And then we would take that money, and then we do the same thing, find another house, pour the money into that, into the principal, pay that down. Again, tax-free, live in, fix up, sell it, tax-free money, and we rinse, lather, repeat, and do that whole thing over again with the sole purpose of always trying to pay down our mortgage. And then working full-time. I was working full-time, the wife would work, and we would throw extra money on the principal of our mortgage. And eventually on our final house that we had in the United States, we were able to, which was also a bank-owned property, we paid that off, and then we sold it at, I would say, the height of the real estate at that time, which was really good, which allowed us tax-free funds. So when we came to Korea, we were able to buy our apartment. So yeah, it was quite the endeavor. MC pops up and says, did you have a yard sale to sell all your house belongings? We did yard sales. We did Facebook Marketplace. We gave stuff away to thrift stores, charity stores, and things like that. A lot of Facebook Marketplace. We sold everything. We didn't ship anything to Korea except for a couple of suitcases. So we didn't ship anything to Korea, which you can. And if you are like we did, if you have an F4, F1 visa, and you come to Korea, you can ship personal items to Korea as long as it's within 6 months, and you won't have to pay any import taxes. And again, you have to show that you have the approved visa, you have your Korean registration card, and yeah, there's people that have done that. But honestly, it was just like, we just got too much crap. Let's just start over. But I do wish I had an American-style bed frame. Kind of like an Ethan Allen bed frame that we had. I still miss that. I don't like the Korean bed frames at all. Neither does my wife. But yeah, we had a lot of yard sales. I had a lot of guns and ammo and survival gear. I was one of those prepper people. But luckily, the majority of the stuff that I bought is when prices were really low. And so I made a little bit of money on the guns, but I made a lot of money on the ammunition. About 2 times as much as what I paid for the ammunition. I had a lot of ammunition. I had a lot. So It was, and we sold everything. And it got to the point we sold the wife's car. I had my truck. We were living in an empty house because we had to sell the house, and everything timed up to the T, and to where we had our bags packed, and eventually the only thing we had was our 2 suitcases and the stuff we were going to take with us, and we slept on the floor. So it's and then a buddy of mine bought my truck, and so when we closed on the house, we spent one more night. We were allowed to stay in the house one more night, and then we turned, it would go over to the people that bought the house. And our friend who bought my truck drove us in my truck, which was now his truck, to the airport and dropped us off. So the timing was impeccable. The stars lined up and everything worked. And it was just pretty wild. It was stressful. It was super stressful. Super stressful. Excuse me. Because you're getting the separation anxiety, stuff that we had in boxes and carried around with us for, the last, 20, 25 years or whatever, photos and this and that. And, oh, well, I remember this chair and I remember this and that. You get these emotional attachments to things. And having to get rid of that was it was the hardest thing that we'd done together, but it was also the most freeing thing that we had done, because those things were tying us down. And once, we kept photos and stuff like that. Now everything's digitized, so that, that makes it a lot better than in the past. But just being able to get rid of all that stuff, it was hard, but it was freeing at the same time. Because let's face it, a lot of people in the United States, we define ourselves by our job, and we define ourselves by our stuff and the things that we do. So when you get to a point of where you want to get rid of your stuff, sometimes people are in a void and they don't know who they are on the inside. And that can be a problem for people. Some people can't handle that. And there was some frustrating times. It was stressful as we were going through all that. So yeah, it was quite an interesting thing. Got a question. Do I like Korean food? Absolutely. Hanu, bulgogi, samgyeopsal, doenjang jjigae, all kinds of food. I mean, all kinds of Korean food. I love Korean food. Love kimchi. Kimchi is awesome. And there's like 300 different types of kimchi. So when somebody says, oh, I hate kimchi. No, there's like over 300 types of kimchi. There's a kimchi out there that you will love. I guarantee it. And you get the compliment. Your wife is beautiful. Yes, she is. Why, thank you. She is awesome. And let's see. For those of you who are wondering, let me see if I can find a picture, which isn't going to be hard. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see if we can find a good one. Good one. Picture of me and the wife. We recently went to... There's a picture right there. That's when we went to Vietnam. So there's the wife. She is awesome and incredible. So yeah, she's just really, really super awesome. Where's another good picture? Yep, there's another one. Boom. There's the wife. She's awesome. Yeah, we just recently came back from a trip from Vietnam, and that was great. We really enjoyed it, and so there's another picture. If we can make that a little bit bigger. So there we are, and that's when we went to Vietnam. That was actually up in Sapa. So yeah, we had a great time there, and again, it's just she's awesome, awesome. There's another one where we were in Sapa again, and love Korean food and all that stuff. So, so thank you. Yeah, MC says, can't stand the smell of kimchi. Some people don't, but my ancestry is German, so we have sauerkraut, so kimchi and sauerkraut kind of in the same type of thing there, cabbage fermented, whatever. Excuse me, but like I said, there's like 300 different types of kimchi. So there's cabbage kimchi, there's radish kimchi, there's just all kinds of different. And usually somebody will like some type of kimchi because not all kimchi smells the same. So, but yeah, even if you don't like kimchi, that's absolutely cool because their Hanu beef, oh my gosh, Korean barbecue, samgyeopsal, bulgogi, especially the Hanu beef. Oh man, that is awesome. And you don't even need kimchi with that. You can just eat the Hanu beef by itself with nothing else, and it melts in your mouth. It is incredible. MC says, I wish I could travel like that, but with my pension and disability, no. Oh, well, try it. I don't know how old you are, but take some vacation trips if you can. It's definitely, travel. That's the one thing my wife, she worked with seniors. She worked for a nonprofit for a while in elder care and support and kind of the hospice thing. And a lot of people there's usually the regrets that seniors have is that they didn't travel enough. And then the things that the seniors really look back on and say what they really liked in remembering was the times that they did travel and do a lot of things. Of course, that takes money as well. But yeah, if you can travel, take the time and do it. Even if it's just in the United States, take that time. It ends up your size than wife is 2 times bigger than your wife. Yeah, just about. My wife is like 5'3", I'm 6'2", so yeah, it's about 2 times. I'm about 260 pounds. She's about $110, so yeah. But it's funny because people have asked me that. They're like, "You're so big and she's so beautiful and petite," and it's like I don't really see that because when we sit down across from each other or next to each other, our faces are kind of the same height. So I don't really notice the size difference until people point it out. And then it's like, or pictures and things like that. And it's like, wow, I guess I really am big. Yeah. And especially since I spend more time in the gym. So yeah, I'm a little bit bigger, but I'm just a big teddy bear. MC says, I'm 40 and want to retire if my retirement pension and disability were like 100%. Been through a lot. Yeah, if you spent some good time in the military, you probably have. Just keep working the disabilities. There's so many disabilities that veterans don't even know that they can apply for. So, trying to find a good VA rep that knows what they're doing you're finding gold in that. But yeah, you should be compensated for what you went through and the injuries. With that said, I feel for you. Yet it says, my wife looks like an actress. Aw, thank you. She must have been popular in America. At the time, it's not like it was these days. We experienced racism in the United States because my wife was Korean, because, that was a long time ago. We've been married over 35 years. And when we first got married, it wasn't as accepted as it is today. But yeah, she's pretty popular with me, and, she's awesome. And she puts up with me. So, it's a win-win. And now we get to hang out in Korea and, we get to go to different places here in Korea and experience and travel and do all that stuff, even just little day trips. MC says, if you don't mind me asking, how much is your disability? Yeah, I do mind because I just kind of leave that to myself, but I do have some disability come in that I have because of some issues, and I've made it known that PTSD and some other physical issues, chronic pain, neuropathy, radiculopathy, hearing loss, severe hearing loss, and a number of other things, spinal stenosis. So yeah, I've got some issues going on, but I don't like discussing how much I get for disability because I've had some people get mad at me, and it's like, I don't know why you're getting mad at me. And basically they were mad at me because they didn't have a good VA representative. And so they took it out on me because maybe they had the same problems or worse, but they just got shitty ratings. And that's not my problem. I mean, my heart goes out to them, but we have other financial monies coming in besides, my military pension and some disability that I get. We have some other things coming in that allow us to, retire overseas. MC says, I got 5 accidents when I was stationed in Korea. I don't know if I could qualify. I could qualify that. I suffered neck and back issues after that. Absolutely. Matter of fact, I just ran into, it was a couple months ago, so it's fairly recent. A veteran contacted me, and he was in a car accident. It wasn't like when he was on deployment or on an exercise. He was in a car accident just driving home from work while being active duty. He didn't know that he could file for VA disability for that accident, which he had back pain. He actually had a herniated disc, which caused pain, and pain that radiated down his left side, and so on and so forth. So, you were on active duty. So it doesn't matter that you're actively on work or you're on vacation or driving home or whatever. It was a weekend. If you had those accidents and it is in your medical records, you can make claims on that stuff. So get with a good VA representative and let them know and say, hey, I have the medical documentation of these accidents, and these were the diagnoses for these problems that I had. Again, diagnosis is a huge thing. And then, medical treatment or medications and stuff like that you've had over time, and you can file claims for that. So yeah, definitely check into that. Yeah, it's, definitely check into that. Because the one guy that I was talking to a couple of months ago, he didn't know. He was like, well, that happened, and it was on a weekend or driving home from work. I can't remember what it was. He goes, I wasn't at work. And it's like, you don't have to be at work. You can be on vacation. You could be on a pass. You could be, go picking up your kids and get in a car accident. You were still on active duty. It doesn't matter that happened, while you were driving the kids or whatever it was. You were still on active duty. So they're responsible for you. So check into that. Please check into that. That is definitely a thing. MC says, I got into car accidents with normal Ajumas. 3 Ajumas hit me from the back, and 2 of them while I was driving a truck. Oh, if you've got medical records on that stuff, any type of documentation, or there's people that that had knowledge of that while you were in the military, like some battle buddies or whatever, they can do statements, sworn statements saying, hey, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. That can all go towards your rating in applying for ratings or increasing your ratings or getting secondaries and stuff like that. M9834A let trailer rear-ended by LMTV. Ouch. Ugh. Yeah, that could be a doozy. That could be a doozy for sure. But yeah, the whole thing with the military is that, you put your life on the line, whether you got deployed or not or whatever, you conscribed yourself to the military. So any type of injury that you have that causes pain or non-normal, it's kind of funny because, it's like, well, what's your pain level? And it's like normal pain. It's like, there is no normal pain. Normal is no pain. So, but when you're in the military, you put up with the pain. At least my generation, we did. And a lot of people just don't know that. So, but with that being said, a lot of people who are military retirees or have medical disability payments or VA disability payments or Social Security disability payments, or hell, even if you're old enough to get Social Security, a lot of people will take that and retire to countries overseas because of the low income requirements, and their dollar goes further, and so they're actually able to retire. Granted, you might not be living high on the hog, but if you can retire and make some compromises versus not retiring, I don't know. It's something to look into. Something to look into. If I was bullied at work, can I qualify mental disability? No, I don't think so. I don't think so, unless there's. If that was the case, everybody would be 100%. I remember being in the Army when they would still beat up recruits in basic training. So I don't know. It's yeah, and again, it has to be diagnosed. So it has to be diagnosed as a service thing. There has to be things in your records. So I would just highly recommend that you get with a VA representative to talk about that. Question is, what rank did you retire at? E7. I retired at E7. So, yeah. I was going to stay longer. I wanted to do 24, 26 years and then retire. But then it got to the point of where you had stupid people that don't know your job or telling you how to do your job and so on and so forth. And it was just at a time in my life where, mentally, back at that time, the military wasn't helping service members out for things like PTSD and trauma and so on and so forth. So just a culmination of bad things that came together that's like, yeah, that's it. I'm out. I'm out of here. I'm retired. It was like, I'm done. So I did just over 20 years, and they dangled E8 in front of me. They're like, oh, you're a shoo-in and blah, 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 blah. And they really tried to get me to stay. And I was like, no, mentally, it was bad on my family. I wasn't handling stress well at that time. It was just a no-go for me. So I had to retire at just over 20, and that was it. And I still had problems afterwards. And yeah. But the good thing was with the overseas retirement and seeing other people being able to retire overseas, that was a godsend because it gave me some hope that there is possibility that I could retire. Might have to compromise on some things. Things would be a little bit different in an overseas country versus the United States. But again, at the end of the day, would I rather be working until I'm almost late into my 60s, almost 70s, or retire in another foreign country and kind of enjoy some of the things in life there? Of course, I went with the, Let's see. Sparky says, I'm back in Korea in February. I don't like cold winters, so in Australia for a few months. I know, right? Korea winters are rough. But if you had the choice of Korean winters or Korean summers, which one would you pick? Because Korean summers are brutal. For me, I would rather experience the Korean winters than the Korean summers. Korean summers, my wife doesn't even like Korean summers. Most Koreans don't like Korean summers. So we got to find some place that's cooler during the summer. But for the Korean winters, not too bad, but we are thinking about maybe going to the Philippines. But now we don't know with those super typhoons, so I don't know. We'll see. Back in February. It's going to be cold in February, but it'll be a little bit better. Retirement overseas is awesome. Costs in Asia are lower and easy to travel to other places. Yeah. And, just your money goes further. The current exchange rate right now is, I think, 1470 won per dollar. They're fully expecting it to get to 1,500 won per dollar. Let's see. Sparky says, ends up saying yes, but Hong Kong summers are hot. They're fire. Yeah. I can imagine that. Probably like Korea. It's just nasty stuff. Let me see if I can find the current exchange rate. That's not what I want to do. George says, from what history taught me, winter over summer, hands down. Sloan Seaman pops in. Hey, welcome to the stream. Take winter, you can layer. Summer, you can only go to shorts and you still bake. I'm not good with humidity. So yes, Korean summers are brutal for me. Are there many retirement soldiers and Korean wives in Anjingri? Yeah, there's a handful. There's a small minority of us, but we all kind of seem to stick to ourselves. There's a couple that we kind of hang around with from time to time that are good friends of ours. So yeah, it's there's a handful of them. We live close to Camp Humphreys, so with that, there's more. But even then, yeah, it's just not a big of an expat community as like you'd experience in Thailand or Philippines or other countries that have real good retirement friendly, visas and things like that. Sparky says the exchange rate in Korea is good. Let's see. Korean exchange rate. Dun dun dun. And if we do $1, it is 14.69. Oof. 14.69 per dollar. And usually whatever the quoted price is for the exchange rate, usually anywhere from 3 to 5 won below that is the exchange rate that you'll get at money exchange stores. So with that, with the won rate being what it is, we're getting basically maybe 10, maybe 15% extra purchasing power, which is nice. So again, that's a reduction of goods, services, and things and stuff because we have US dollars that are converted into won. Yeah, it's 1467 or 69, 1469. It's expected to go to 1500 soon. Is it hard to get a house around there? My wife begs me to stop working and go back to Korea when I retire. The majority of properties in Korea, I think the latest thing I saw is 70% of the properties where Koreans live are apartments. Okay. There are houses, there are places out in the country, there are people that buy older farmhouses from seniors who, they're no longer there, or they passed on and their families are trying to get rid of properties. And since everybody had migrated towards the cities, country places are getting, abandoned, or it's easier to find properties. Excuse me. But as far as finding houses or properties or apartments, it really depends on location. If you go to Seoul and you go to Gangnam, the crazy expensive areas, they're going to be crazy expensive. If you go to areas that are not as large as Seoul and a little bit away, you're going to find, of course, a decrease in those properties. But if you're around a military base, generally those places rent out, have real good rent rates, so the property prices are going to be a little bit higher. So keep that in mind. But if you look on my YouTube page, you can look for like Naver Real Estate, do a search on my videos, and it can I show you how to use Naver Real Estate to look at properties and find out information using a Chrome browser because it has that Korean to English translation and it works really good. But it's not hard to get a house. I bought the apartment that we're living in now. Everton says the subject of property ownership presents a fine line as stated. My friends who own property here and receive proceeds in U.S. currency are paying U.S. tax. Double taxation is commendable. So yeah, there is a tax treaty between Korea and the United States. And yeah, so you're going to pay tax one way or another. It just depends on who. And if you pay it to one, you'll probably get a tax credit on the other. So it's kind of a wash. You won't have that double taxation. Dun, dun, dun. My wife even suggested me to move back in with her parents and live with them. Wow, I couldn't do that. We've been on our own for so long. I wouldn't be able to do that. We wouldn't be able to do that. But it's cool that but then again, Korea is a little bit different because family takes care of family, and then the house could be passed on. That's kind of the thing that they got going on there, or the first son-in-law takes care, the first son and his wife take care of the son's family, the mom and dad and so on and so forth. So there's that type of that type of cultural retirement program, I guess you could say, for seniors is really dependent upon family. So that's probably a reason why she said that. But that would, some people can do that. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. Terry says, when I was there in '82, the exchange rate was 800 won to the dollar. I know. I remember that. I remember in '88, just prior to the Olympics, you could take $1, you could get a beer, like a Budweiser, and you'd get change back. And so now it's almost 1,500 won to the dollar. So yeah, it's amazing. Sloan Seaman says, way out in the country, you can get something for under 20,000 if you watch the auctions. In the cities, it's kind of expensive. Yeah. Country, yeah, we're considering, because we're either going to buy another apartment and then rent that out and stay here in this 4-bedroom, 2-bath, or possibly get a country place and we move to the country place as long as we got a big enough place for my, printing and, 3D printing and hobby stuff. I wouldn't mind living out in the country as long as it was kind of like within 30, 40 minutes of Camp Humphreys. About 30 minutes would be good because we still go to the gym, 3-4 days a week or whatever. But yeah, 20,000 won for auctions? Really? Sloan, send me, here's my email. Official, the varied life at gmail.com. It's in the comment section right there. But I would love to get that information on like auctions. I haven't broached or looked at auctions, but even if it's $80,000 or $100,000 and get a great place at an auction, I would love to do that. So if you give me that information, that'd be awesome. Sparky says property prices in Seoul are high, but be prepared to look. A good agent is key. That is absolutely true. And real estate agents in Korea will more than likely, in our experience, when we were shopping for our apartment and properties, they will usually only show you the properties that they list. And I brought this up in past streams where like we're in brownstone apartments. And we went, we kind of went through the neighbor real estate, realtor contact information at the bottom. And, even though there was like 100 properties for sale, they only had like 10 listings or whatever it was. And then they didn't have any more. And then we also had some other people that we know that came to Korea. And there was like 70 some odd properties or whatever, 100 properties for sale. But the realtor they went to only had like 5. And they said, no, that's all there is there. Well, I think there's something lost in translation. So, but a good realtor is absolutely key. And make sure that they're well versed on selling properties to foreigners if you're a foreigner. Sloan says, +1, we had a really good agent worked with us for months. Yeah, good agents are worth their weight in gold. Same thing with immigration lawyers. We love our immigration lawyer. She is great. Lots of mortgage auctions outside Seoul. I would love to find that information because I would not be averse to doing an auction or, even fixing up a property. I've rehabbed like 60 different properties over my years. Doesn't sound too bad. I could save money, and if I could save money and not work, yeah. And that's why a lot of people end up, maybe not so much Korea, but there's people that retired in Philippines. Of course, we had the 2 super typhoons or whatever, or Thailand, or, Costa Rica, Panama, Portugal's another good one. A lot of different countries where the income requirements are lower for people that don't have a huge income in their retirement or pension, or maybe they're just on Social Security. And there are people that wouldn't be able to retire in the U.S. are able to retire overseas, which, there's some compromises to be made, but it's a possible option. It's definitely worth looking at. George pops up and says the tax treaty is one thing a lot of people don't take into consideration because they say let's say you move to a country that doesn't have the tax, such as Germany, you will still have to pay taxes to the U.S. for 10 years. Oh, wow. Yeah, if there's no tax treaty, you could get dinged twice. So Sloan says, I'll look it up. The in-laws did this. Oh, I would appreciate that. That would be awesome. I'm all for saving money. And if I could save some money on a property and live out in the country and get it at an auction at a real good discount, you can't beat that. That's awesome. Sloan Homes pops up and says, have you thought about a hobby space and not a house? That is my plan. Just buy a small workshop, 30, 40 from my place. No idea on cost. That is an idea. I've never really thought about that. Like buying a studio or something like that. No, I haven't thought about that. And maybe that's because, we've got a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and I've got this space, and I've got another spare bedroom that I use for my hobby stuff. My wife has got another spare bedroom for her stuff, and then, of course, our master bedroom. So that works out really well. But a hobby space and not a house. No, I never thought about that. That's an interesting little thing there. Have you ever tried Bray Republic? I have no idea what Bray Republic is. Let's see if we can see what that is. B-R-A-I Bray Republic in Piontek. Oh, okay. So it's a restaurant. It's in Piontek. And it's in Onjingni. No, I haven't tried it. The South African restaurant. Honestly, no. But it says it's got 4.6 stars. Interesting. I might have to try that. And the reason I say that is because of this right here. We kind of look at what we got there. Bray Republic. Lamb. Ooh. They've got the meats. I don't know. That is very interesting. That looks like some, and I'm a meat and potatoes type of guy. I might have to try that. Especially when we're looking at stuff like that. Holy crow, that could be good. No, I'll have to look into that. Thanks for bringing that up. Philippine Juicy Girl? No. It's in the Ville, straight out from the walking gate. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Now I remember it. It comes to mind. Yeah, it's on that. Is it on the left-hand side? I think as you walk from the walk-in gate and walk out and across the street, should be on the left-hand side. Is it still open though? I don't know. I'll have to take a look at that. I'll have to see. Straight out the walking gate. Yeah, I know where it is. Yeah, walking gate. You got the burger place. You've got a number of the, like Jay's Computer, Doner Kebab. Let me see what, blah, 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 blah. So we'll take a look at this. So that Bray Republic is like right up there. This down here is the walkthrough gate. So you cross the street. There's GS25, Computer Mart. And then we got some Doner Kebab is in that building. Jay's Computer. Non-curry restaurant. Not too good, in my opinion. And then you keep going up, and there it is right there. Opens at 11:30. I don't know. We might have to try to take it. Is it open on Sundays? I don't know. I might have to take a look at that. And then there's Capitolatorium, and then What else is here? In this big building, you have what is it, Pascucci? So yeah, it's real good. I know exactly where that's at. I'll just check that out. That might be something. Might be something to look into. Especially that meat. That meat looks great. Let's see. Nefer Demur says, I recall an area when the exchange rate was 800 won per dollar when I first arrived in 77. Came back and forth ever since I was a soldier, as well as DOW civilian, then retirement. I know. That is, you got some stories to tell. That would be wild. Then I got the odd question. You met a juicy girl before? Yeah. Of course, I came to Korea single. I was up in Chuncheon at Camp Page. And of course, they had the GI bars that was right outside of Camp Page in Chuncheon. Yeah, met some. Wasn't really a big, didn't, wasn't really a big juicy girl guy. It just seemed like throwing money away. 10,000 won a drink or whatever, and it's just like juice and, some flavored water. I didn't really get that. It wasn't really my thing. When I was up in Chuncheon, what I ended up doing was teaching conversational English at Kangwon University up there. And then they cracked down on the teachers because I didn't have an ESL certificate. And it was just conversational English. So that stopped. But then I continued teaching because I said, hey, can I teach for free? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, I teach for free. And can I do that? And they're like, why would you want to teach English, conversational English for free, on the weekends? It's like, because the students and we get to go out. They take me to coffee shops. We get to go out and see Korea. They take me to parks and whatever. They practice their English. I get to see Korean, try Korean food. So that's how I kind of rolled. I also ended up taking Taekwondo classes and stuff like that. So I wasn't granted, I was a soldier and I would get my drink on. And I'd get 9 sheets to the wind, but that really wasn't my thing. I was like, I didn't want to get married. It was just not I didn't like all that. So as a professor, no, it was just conversational English. So at that time, you didn't need to be a professor, and it was prior to Korea cracking down and requiring ESL certificates and things like that. And again, it was just conversational English. And eventually it got to the place where the university, just like, a bunch of students met on campus. We just practiced English back and forth. And then after that, we'd go to lunch or, go get some coffee. They would practice English. And so it was more of a social thing for me, to get away from the military bases. And it was really fun. I enjoyed it. A lot of good people. But then being in the military, I probably wouldn't be able to teach English because you go on deployments and all of that Army stuff. So yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. But yeah, let's see what else we got going on. Besides the Brave Republic in Pyeongtaek with all of their meats, that looks really, really good. I would definitely like to check that out. It looks more like a smokehouse and a steakhouse type of thing than like African food is kind of what it says, but I don't know. Reminds me more of like a smokehouse, like UG Smokehouse or Smoketown, which I think UG Smokehouse is a lot better. I really, really like that. How do you stand up for bullies in the military? How do I stand up for bullies? I don't stand up for bullies in the military. I stand up to bullies. Maybe that's what you meant. Yeah, and MC says, now I got you hungry. Yeah, because look, as I'm looking at some of these photos, look at that. The meat. Oh, especially that. That's what reminds me of like smoked meats and stuff like that. The UJ Smokehouse is really good. That's probably the best smokehouse I like. And I don't know about that egg thing. That doesn't. That looks like a bangers and mash type of English breakfast type of thing. I'm not a real English breakfast. Yeah, that's not me. But yeah, there it is. I know what it's talking about. Never been there, but maybe I will. Maybe I will. I will definitely check that. The UG Smokehouse is definitely a place that I would highly recommend because it's really good. Let me see if I can find that. Here it is. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Where is it? Boom. So let's go back to the map and I'll show you what I'm talking about because this place is really good. So here is Camp Humphreys. So this is Camp Humphreys. This is the walk-in gate right here. And so if you go out the walk-in gate and you immediately take a left and you go down here and you just walk past the little garage shops, you'll find UG Smokehouse here. And there it is. They have got some really, really good smoked meats. They've got the but yeah, the beans, the meat, the brisket, the chicken, all of that. I'm not really a big pork person. Do from time to time, but yeah, that's a basic platter. Oh my gosh, that is so good. And different sides. Mac and cheese is really good. I mean, look at that. Oh, and the grilled chicken, smoked chicken is good. They do smoked beef, but you have to get with them so many days in advance because it's like not a normal thing that they end up doing. So you got a special order it, and it's kind of expensive. And we're going to do that one of these days. But they got little lunchtime specials, platters, and stuff like that. The mac and cheese. The mac and cheese is really, really good. Beans are good. It is just nice little place, but really, really good food. We have not been dissatisfied with that place, and all the people that we've taken there, they've never, had any problems. Everybody loves it. That is a really good place. That UJ Smokehouse. If you definitely check that out. Terry says, I just smoked some ribs a couple days ago. Terry's our resident smoker. Yeah. MC says, how do you stand up to bullies? I'm going through rough times at work. So I'm assuming you're still in the military. So with that, I would definitely you got to stand your ground. You got to set some boundaries. And sometimes that's hard in the military when somebody's over you and they're a bully. I really hate that. And it pisses me off. And I didn't put up with that, even though it happened to me at times. So when I became a leader as NCO and I had troops under me, team, squad, platoon sergeant, I didn't put up with that crap. So that's near and dear to my heart. But try to find some people, like-minded people, to hang around. And the other thing you can end up doing is getting with the chaplain services. Go to the chaplain. Back in the day, it wasn't really a cool thing, but we had a chaplain that used to be in the infantry. He was enlisted infantry, and he'd stack bodies and all this stuff. So he was but then he became a chaplain, and so all us infantry guys, we really liked him. But he didn't put up with that crap either. So, get with, the chaplain services, counseling, stuff like that, present the situation, at least get it on record. And maybe they can find some ways on how to go about that. For me, what I ended up doing is back in the day when I was in the military, I just put my nose to the grindstone, and it was just like, okay, I only got to put up with this person for X amount of time, so many days, and I had my little countdown thing. And being in Korea, you only got so much time in Korea. So I had that short timers calendar, and it was just and then, but also maximize getting de-stressed and doing things that you like to do and getting away from the people that are bullies, because that's bullshit. Your mental health is vitally important. And I would, I so wish the military would put more emphasis on that. than they do. Even back then, and even today, I wish they would do more in that aspect. And unfortunately, it comes to a place where some people are just idiots, and they will always be idiots. And sometimes you need to go to the next level, and it'll be uncomfortable, it'll be rough, it'll be hard, but yeah, it's hard. Let's see. MC says he used to go there all the time in 2021. I'm assuming you're talking about UJ. It's really good. MC says I filed an EO complaint. Oh yeah, it sounds like that's not good. That's not that you filed an EO complaint, but you're going through some hard times. So yeah, heart goes out to you. And MC says this is why I want to retire at 40. I know, right? Man, I retired at 38 because I joined when I was 17 and I turned 18 when I was actually in basic training. So there's a whole story behind why I enlisted in the military. But yeah, I just put my nose to the grindstone. I tried to find ways to get away and limit now that I look back, I would say setting personal boundaries is a good thing. And I know it didn't come until later in my career, that there was people that I absolutely hated, and they absolutely hated me, and they would try to bully me, and I didn't want to put up with that. And eventually it got to the place of where it was like, hey, listen, if you want to talk to me, let's talk about work, what I need to do, what I need to get done, absolutely, and then that's it. I don't want to know about your personal life. You don't want to know about mine. If you don't like what I do, that's absolutely fine. Let's just be professional, and just when it's work, let's concentrate on work. Other than that, I don't like jokes being made. I don't like this or that or whatever it is. You have to learn to set boundaries. And again, I highly recommend getting with a chaplain and getting some counseling and stuff like that. It's you got to stand up for yourself. And at least now, you have those things available where, like when I was in, it wasn't really a thing. It was just like dog eat dog world. So take advantages of those things, but concentrate and let them know that you still want to be the consummate professional. And I just don't want to deal with any of this BS, So if you think it's fun to bully me and whatever, I don't appreciate that. Since I don't appreciate that, and this is a problem, it's affecting my work for the military, let's just focus on the work that I have to do, and let's not leave it at that, nothing else. But yeah, definitely see the chaplain and get some counseling and stuff like that. For me, filing an EO complaint was my final straw. Yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through that. If you want, send me an email if you want to chat some more on that, because that's rough. And sometimes you just need somebody just to vent to, just to be on your side, just to listen. And yeah, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It might not feel like it, but being in Korea, there's a limited amount of time. There's only so much time people are going to be there. And I absolutely 100% understand, because I worked for people that were total asshats. And I had countdown calendars, especially when I was in 2nd Division up north, Camp Uriel and Camp Pelham. We did rotations on the DMZ. I had a boss that was the number one massive idiot. And he just made it a point to just try to rag on me whenever he had a chance. And, the only thing I could do is I could go to the gym, I could work out. I just tried to do my job, and that was it. And then, stay away from him. And then I had the short timers calendar. Not for me, for him. Because, only 215 more days and he's gone. I was counting down the number of days that he would go on vacation or leave or whatever. And it was, oh, thank God he's going to be gone for 2 weeks, And then it was like it gave me a goal to shoot for, of knowing that this wasn't going to be forever. But if it gets so serious that you got to file an EO complaint, you need to have somebody in your corner, people like chaplains, report that stuff, get counseling, even if it's just to vent and get that stuff off your chest. It ends up, it was an officer started letting everyone know how much he hates me, then the other one started bullying me too. Oh, it was an officer? That's a dick move. That is totally unprofessional. That keep a diary, write down times, events, what was said, how often it was said. I know it's a pain in the ass to do, but this is the stuff that saved my bacon so many times when I started doing this because somebody suggested that I do it. And so when I would see a counselor, actually it wasn't really a counselor, it was a chaplain, it's like, what's going on? So-and-so's being a dick to me, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no. And I started pulling out and showing the notes on all the times that this person was being a jerk, that boss that I was telling you about. And it was like, okay, yeah. Then there was a little bit more traction because you have something on paper that shows that this is a recurring problem. And the fact that it's an officer just pisses me off even more. That's just so not cool. It's bad enough when NCOs do it, but when officers do it, it really pisses me off. But the more you record every time that something happens, that is totally unprofessional. And again, just being able to have somebody to talk to, like a chaplain or a counselor, get some mental health counseling or whatever, totally do that, because that can go in your records. And if that is a persistent problem, that can cause mental anguish and despair and depression and the whole 9 yards, which are rateable items, and if it's as bad as like what you're saying it is, and other people are bullying you as well, holy crow, that's serious business. That is something serious. So go see those people. Go see the chaplain. Go schedule some appointments with mental health, a psychiatrist, and just lay all that shit on the table and show them at this date, this time, this is what, and all of these things. This person is making my life miserable because he's not a professional. He's being a dick. Not good. Not good. And let them know about the other people as well, because unfortunately, when somebody is in command or somebody is in charge, and whatever they do is, and everybody else sees that they're doing it, they're going to do it as well as what you're finding out. So, yeah, that is totally unacceptable, and that is not the way an officer, non-commissioned or commissioned officer, is supposed to lead. That is like the opposite of leadership. So, yeah, it's just total bullshit. I wish I could say I could find the person and have a heart-to-heart talk with them, but it just, there's a limited amount of time that you got to spend with that jackwagon, okay? But yeah, definitely get some counseling just to get it on record with the chaplain, with the mental health professional, go to sick call, get an appointment, the whole 9 yards. And it is what it is. And you need to take care of you, because obviously this jackwagon is not going to do anything for you. And if the other leadership isn't there, you need to take care of yourself. You are important, okay? Idiots like that, yeah, they're a waste of DNA. Damn, now you're getting me all pissed off. Okay, thank you for the advice. Means a lot. Well, hey, you got to do what you got to do, and it's your mental health that's on the line, and that can make the difference, a whole world of difference. I wish I had taken a more active role in my mental health while I was in the military, even though it was frowned upon at the time. If you went to mental health when I was in, you're considered a whack job. I've actually seen people get downrated on their NCOERs in counselings because they went to mental health, because they were considered mentally weak, which affected promotions, which is an insane thing to think, because the military is all about problem solving and accomplishing the mission. And if this thing is a problem and you're going to deal with it and get some help so it is no longer a problem, you should be congratulated for that. But for some reason, the military is still stuck in the ancient days, and they're a bunch of jackwagons. He shook everyone's hand and coughed in front of me and skipped me. That just shows how childish and immature he is. He is beneath you. He does not not deserve to wear the rank that is on his shoulder if that's what he did. And if he did, it doesn't matter. Screw him. Screw him. He means nothing. Don't let him tell you any different. Bullshit. Hate it when people do that. All right. Get me all worked up. Just when you need the Punisher. Hello, 1-800-Punisher? I have somebody you need to go visit. Especially in this day and age. That is crazy that is even happening. Yeah. And, you know, shakes everybody's hands, but yours, I wouldn't want to shake his hand to begin with. It's just, you're beneath me. If he's an officer and acting like that, POS. 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 Look up POS. Definitely power abuse. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason on God's green earth for any justification for that type of behavior from an officer or an NCO or anybody in a leadership position, regardless. That is just totally insane. Yeah, that is. You're better than that. Don't. You need to change your mindset. He's a POS. Plain and simple. He's immature. He's ignorant. He's a bully. And the reason he is he's a bully is because he doesn't know. He was obviously raised in a dysfunctional manner, so that might be all he knows. That doesn't give him a pass. You know, like, oh, poor Officer Johnny was raised in a dysfunctional family, so, you know, it's not really his fault. Bullshit. It's his fault. He's an adult. And the fact that he's an officer, he should know that should not be tolerated. I wish we had some of the old sergeant majors where I remember back in the day, if there was officers that abused soldiers, I remember some sergeant majors that once they heard about that, they would talk to the soldier and then they would march straight into that officer's office, close the door, and then there would be a myriad of yelling and curse words, and the officer would be put in their place. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to act around him anymore. With indifference. Be professional, but indifferent. Realize that if it's not work-related, hey, go lay out the camouflage for this, for the inventory or whatever. Absolutely fine. I'll be a professional, consummate professional. I will do that. But if it starts any personal stuff, you know, like, you're a piece of shit, you know, about, you know, whatever he ends up doing, just separate that and realize he's an idiot. And you don't have to. It's like, just look at him like he's a spoiled toddler. You have your boundaries. You can let stuff in, and you can stop stuff from coming in. And that's a hard thing to do. I'm straight up with you. That is a hard thing to do, is to be able to set boundaries and not let those things affect you. But once you get to that place, if you can recognize that he's an idiot and an asshat, and he's immature, and he's stupid, he's a POS, not worth the DNA, he's a meat bag of bullshit for doing that, then it's so much easier to say, yeah, let it roll off your back. It's hard to do at first, but eventually you get to the place of where it's like, you're this, and in my mind I'm going like, yeah, right, whatever. You know, eventually he's going to leave. But you need to develop skills and things that you can do to not let that affect you. And that's why you need to go to counseling. That's why you need to get that help, because in all the things that we do in the military, we are trained to do those, how to set up antennas and tents, and how to do BRM, and how to do first aid, and, you know, NBC gear, and the whole 9 yards. Everything is task and accomplish oriented, except when it comes to our mental health. Because none of us are trained on how to have good mental health and how to have boundaries. So just think of it in a military way. okay, I need help in this area. I need to learn how to deal with this POS. And so I'm going to go get counseling to be able to learn the skills and abilities in which to deal with him or her and go do it. And it is so worth the time. So worth the time. Yeah. But just try to keep it professional. Hey, and if it requires you having to talk with them, again, I would get with chaplains and stuff like that. Because in my case, I had to end up with another person to confront this stupid leader that was being a jackass to me and say, listen, whatever you want me to do as far as military and work-wise, I will 100% do it. But these little jabs and little things and the bullshit that you're doing, I don't appreciate that. I don't want to hear it. And the other person with me was a high-ranking person. So it ends up, it was like, yeah. And so that it was on record. And basically, you're putting that person on blast, and you got a witness, and it's like witnesses are key. And that's where, besides writing down, I know old school's writing down, all the things that they end up doing. Emails are awesome as well. Send yourself an email, and yeah, it is a thing. Everybody comes to me and asks what happened between me and him. Yeah, and you can just tell him, say, yeah, I don't know why he's got a hard on for me. I just want to do my job and let it be. And that's, so whatever problem he has, it's obviously not work and it's not professional related. So I don't want to get into the details because it's not helping anybody. And when you explain it in that manner, you're setting boundaries for the people that are coming to you, and you're being a good example for them. So give that a shot as well. Nefertamur says, your experience as correction officer and counselor is truly making a positive impact. Assisting one of our active duty service members will greatly appreciate. He wants everybody to know that we are not on good term and gives others permission to treat me like shite. That's why if people ask you, you just kind of give that thing and you're able to set boundaries and say, yeah, I don't know. Personally, I don't like him, and that's okay. I just want to do my job, and this other stuff that he's doing, I'm not sure why he's doing it, but, that's on him. It's not me. I just want to do my job, do a good job, and be done with it, But eventually he's going to go. When is this D-Rose? Make up a short timer's calendar. When does he go on leave? When is, and then the other thing is, maybe try to get a transfer to work in another unit. I know that's hard to do. It's really hard to do. And there's some type, I would imagine there's probably some stigmatism to that, stigma associated with somebody going from one unit to another, or maybe from one section to another to get out from under this POS. But again, get with the professionals, get with chaplains, the whole 9 yards, and look at the different options you have. But the most immediate thing is your mental health, and that's important. And learning to set boundaries. And then when people are like, hey, what's going on between you and LT or Captain so-and-so or whatever, try to keep it professional. Say, hey, I just want to do my job. I don't know why he's got a hard on for me. I don't understand why, so I just want to do my job, and that's it. So I don't know what to tell you, yeah, and take good notes. Yeah, I know. So I still have to see him all the time. I know. Been there, done that. It sucks. But again, get that counseling. See the chaplain. See a psychiatrist or, shrink or whatever it is. You got to have some out for that. And then, because you'll learn those skills and those ways to deal with those people. And then also look at, what do you do in your spare time? You need to have some time for you. And I know living in the barracks, been there, done that, it can be a pain because you're never really away from the military, but you need to be away from the military to de-stress and decompress and all that stuff. I don't know what you're interested. I'm a big gym person. I go to the gym because then I get a lot of aggression and deal with my demons in that manner. Other people end up doing gaming. I don't know if you're into gaming or any stuff like that. Get knee deep into that stuff. Find an out. Find a way, something to do that is outside where that person is totally gone. That's why I like doing 3D printing. That's why I like doing, I wish I knew about that stuff while I was in the military. Even just gaming or whatever it is. I really wish that I knew that stuff. But at the time I was in the military, you work hard, and if you had issues, you just drank a lot of alcohol. And that's probably not a good way to self-medicate. It's not a good way. Have you ever been in any similar situations like mine when you were active duty? Yeah, I was telling you, that sergeant that I worked for when I was up by the DMZ at Camp Carrion, he was a total asshat. And he just hated me. No reason. And you'll run into people, well, they will hate you for absolutely no reason. I have hated people because the way they breathe. It's just something about them. And it's like, but you need to get to a point of be able to say, you know what, they're only here for a limited amount of time. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but I need to work on boundaries to keep that shit from rolling onto me as much as possible. Find ways to de-stress and get some relief. And of course, now you have, counseling and stuff like that. And eventually it's just like, if you can get reassigned, that would be awesome. But I rarely saw that when I was in the military, so I have no clue of what it is now. But just hang in there, and find some stuff to do to get your head out and away from the thought of this person. So I don't know when he leaves. Got to find out. There's ways to find out. It'd be worth finding out, because that would give you, at least you have a time period, a place in time of when you know that person is going to be gone. That in itself gives hope. If I can hold on, back when I was doing tours in Korea, it was a 1 year on a company tour. So like when I got to the unit, when I was up north, and it ends up, he got there like 3-4 months. It was like 3 months after I got there, I think it was. And so he had a year to do. And so but I had already extended, so I was going to be there the whole time. So I knew that he was going to be there for 1 year. But they also knew he was going to take 30 days leave. So so now it's down to 11 months. And then the last, few weeks, he's going to be a POS and he's not going to do anything because he's getting ready to leave, and then he's got out processing and all that stuff. His person's going to be a non-issue. So now we're down from 11 months to maybe 10 and a half months. And now that's more doable. And then when you look and you say, okay, well, now if I got some weekend, I got time off, I need to retreat and go do stuff, gaming or, whatever it is that you end up doing. Don't climb in a bottle. Then you can get some time away, and you can say, well, I got to not deal with this person on the weekends or this or that, whatever it is. Then things become more manageable and they're more doable, and saying, hey, I can deal with this asset. MC says, I just want to retire as soon as to get out of the Army. This has been going on for 2 years. Oh, man. So I get you. I totally get you. If he's been there, if you've been going through this for 2 years, is he on a company tour? That would be my question, because then that kind of narrowed down. Or hell, you can always ask people in PAC and S1 and find out, hey, could you find out, as long as you have some favor with some people, find out when that asset leaves. And at least give you a timeline in which to deal with. So, and you want to retire as soon as possible. Are you like close to retirement? Or, what are we looking at as far as that? Just trying to get some details. Like I said, if you want to chat some more, send me an email. And again, Official to variedlife.com. 2 years. And it says, I'm not stationed in Korea. Sorry for not mentioning that earlier. Oh, okay. Okay. So, yeah, that kind of makes sense, though. So if it's been going on for 2 years, it could be longer because you're in the States. Like I said, counseling, or there's also the possibility of putting in and requesting to go somewhere else. Put in for a hardship tour to Korea. I don't know if you're married or whatever. Get with your branch manager and see, hey, what are the possibilities of leaving, going someplace else for whatever. Look at all the options that you have. And again, the counseling, the whole 9 yards. He says, left Korea in 2021. Well, you can always go back. I remember I was in Korea. I got orders for Fort Campbell, Kentucky, went there, and everybody's like, oh, you're going to be here for minimum 4 to 6 years before you get orders for any other place. And I ended up getting orders back to Korea a year and 10 months later. Totally insane. I called branch manager. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Branch manager at that time was kind of a jerk and didn't really work with anybody. He's like, well, that's where the Army needs you. Sayonara. I said, yeah, that's Japanese. But I get it. When you're getting close to that retirement, oh man, it's like things piss you off, especially stupid people. Stupid people piss me off, period. So, but hang in there. Get the help that you need, man. Get the help that you need. Definitely, it's bullshit that you got to put up with that. That really pisses me off. That really pisses me off. Anyway, okay. With that being said, we're at 2 hours and 40 some odd minutes that we've been streaming here. So we're running it. So MC says I'm retiring in a couple of years. It sounds like I'm staying here quite a while. Couple of years. Retiring in a couple of years. Thanks for helping out. Always, always. So I got a question for you. If you're going to retire in a couple of years, are you married and do you have family? Or is it just you? George says, I was never able to enlist, however, I had a lot of good times at Fort Campbell. Yeah, Fort Campbell. I remember that. Fun. Being infantry, 3rd of 327 infantry. Air assault school, road marches every Friday, 4, 6, 8 and 12 miles. Deployments, went to Panama. Yeah. Our colonel at the time was Lieutenant Colonel Mills, who, when we were doing a live fire exercise, he ended up getting, we were doing live fire training, trench warfare, and he caught a bullet in the back of the helmet and it kind of scrambled his brain, and he passed away. Incredible guy. MC says, I'm married to a Korean wife. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You did say that. Put in for Korea. Put in for Korea. Why not? Your wife's Korean. It's not like, Korea's going to be, unknown to you. Let Uncle Sam pay for a trip to Korea. You work here, do whatever job that you got to do. Do your last couple years here in Korea and then retire. Sounds like it'd probably be a lot better than what you're dealing with there. I mean, just right off the cuff, but I don't know. Never Demers says, I concur that the service members should seek counseling properly. There are numerous circumstances surrounding the individual situation. Yeah, there's always more to it than little comments that we can get on here, that's for sure. But definitely need to get worked on that. George says, I used to watch the 4th of July fireworks sitting on the roof of the ATC. Yeah. In the Oktoberfest that they had at Fort Campbell. Wow, those were big too. I remember the first Oktoberfest we had. Our daughter was born, and then the first Oktoberfest there, it was incredible. we went to this, I can't remember where it was at, but it was a huge, huge place. And it was like a huge like warehouse, and they had all the tables and everything was decked out in the German decorations. People are in the lederhosen and the whole 9 yards. And we're sitting, and then there's these elderly German people next to us, and then my wife, and then his daughter, and then me, and then they were kind of like giving her the side eye. It was kind of like, in the German way that they do. What is this person with the black hair and slanted eyes? I'm not sure what they are at Oktoberfest. And so they were kind of a little standoffish, and then my wife poured him, the lady, a glass of beer. Then it was on like Donkey Kong. I mean, they just loved us from there. And then my daughter's doing a little chicken dance, and we were just having a load of fun. It was awesome. I missed the good Oktoberfest days. MC says, I wish I could. If you got a couple years, you wish you could, but you can't. It says, we bought a house here and we have a lot of house belongings and 6 rescued pets. Wow. Well, houses are appreciating pretty good. Or you could just do an unaccompanied tour to Korea. The wife stays there. I don't know if she'd be cool with that. I don't know. My wife probably wouldn't. I always brought my wife everywhere with me, even when I was on unaccompanied tours. But yeah, the 6 rescued animals, pets, that, of course, all the crap that you have, I'm not saying that your stuff is crap, but a lot of stuff that you have with living in houses, and I've been there, done that. Yeah, the rescued pets, that would be storage belongings for your house. That's not a problem. Those can be stored, but you can't like store your rescued animals, or you'd have to, find homes for them, rehome them or whatever. Yeah, that's kind of rough. But if you only got 2 years, it's 2 years. Each year you got 30 days leave, so you're knocking 2 months out of that. So we're 24 months now. We're down to 22 months, and then I don't know. Is there a military school that you can go to and put in for? That could be. I would do that. Look for schools where you could be away from that jackwagon. See if, again, the counseling, the whole 9 yards. MC says, my wife won't be fine. Yeah. There's no way I would be able to do an unaccompanied tour without my wife and come back to Korea or anywhere else, And she has medical issues. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that makes it even harder. So, man, bro, just got to, get help, suck it up, realize you have your time frame of about 2 years. You're going to have, saved up leave. You're going to get some permissive TDY for retiring, however long that is nowadays. I forget what it is. Check some information, find out when that jackwagon, if he's scheduled to go anywhere. I heard rumors of we actually sent a guy to Korea when I was at Fort Lewis, Washington, and he was a barracks rat. And this was way back in the day. And this is just for entertainment purposes only. It may or may not be true. But this guy he was kind of a jerk, and he was always a barracks rat. He never went out, never did anything. And it was like, man, you need to get out and experience life in the world. And he's like, no. And he'd just stay in his room, eat pizza, and getting fatter and fatter. And it's like, bro, you need to do something. And he goes, no, I like it here and whatever. He just, no social life whatsoever. And then he would piss people off. And so my roommate, his last name was King, and supposedly he was part of the King Ranch. He was adopted. I forget his first name. So anyway, me and him, we'd pal around and do a lot of stuff together. And this guy at the end of the hallway, it was just, he never cleaned the bathroom, never do all that stuff. So we got back at him, supposedly, allegedly. We got with our S1, we got the 4187, filled it out for requesting Korea, and somebody forged his signature. I'm not sure who that was. And then he got orders for Korea. He was pissed. It was hilarious, though. Not saying you should put in 4187 to get Officer Jackwagon sent off to Korea, but that would be funny if that happened. That would be hilarious. But you can't do that these days. You can't do that these days. Not that I did that. Just saying. MC says she has hypothyroidism, and when heart rate goes high after bringing her to the ER, I'm stuck here. Oh, that sucks. Man, that makes it really, really hard because then you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Hang in there, get some counseling, see the psychiatrist, like we said, and stuff like this. If it's systemic, that can cause you mental anguish to the point of where it's like if you got to get counseling and you got to get medication and whatever, I mean, that could be a rateable thing in the military for VA disability, 100%. Not saying you get 100% disability, but I mean, that is a verifiable claim, especially with all the documentation. You get your counseling, you're seeing the chaplain, seeing the psychiatrist, whatever it is. If it leads to getting medication, then you're diagnosed with whatever it is. Boom, there's that. But you shouldn't have to go through that crap, unfortunately. Korea would be a first choice if I could. These days you can't because of IPSSA. I'm not sure what that is. But I'm assuming it has to do with medical problems and that you have to meet so many things, family members, can't get treatment for certain things overseas. And so I'm assuming that's what that is. But just hang in there, man. Oh, that's rough. That is rough. Jackwagons like that. We need a Punisher. We need a Punisher. 1-800-Punisher. Yeah, I've got a jackwagon that needs a visit from you. Yeah. Not advocating violence, but I'm just saying. A Punisher type thing to deal with. But the good thing is you don't got long. When I retire, though, I will be thinking about moving to Korea if my retirement disability can support my family. Yeah, it's definitely a thing. And like I said, your wife could get the F4 visa. You could get the F1, which is now, they changed the name to an F3 visa. It just means that you have a visa that is the spouse of an F4 visa holder, which isn't hard to get. You can actually get it before you come to Korea and apply for it in the United States through a Korean embassy. There's some people that I know that have done that when they came to Korea. We got ours through after we got here. So we got here on a tourist visa, and then we put in the application for the F1, F4 visa, and then we had to wait about 2.5 months. So we should have got it beforehand, but we didn't. IPSSA is a website. Now all actions requests go through. Okay. Yeah, everything's digitized, so it's harder to send people to places they don't want to go. Like supposedly, allegedly, that the person that we sent to Korea, allegedly. Yeah, it's the good old days. The good old days. Yeah, just hang in there. Realize he's a piece of shit and he's beneath you. And if you can get that into your head, that'll go a long way right there. Because if it's not work related and his gums are doing this, then you can just shut it off. And it's just, blah, 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 blah. Idiot, jackwagon, POS, blah, 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 blah. That's all you're going to hear. And then you can differentiate that and oh, you think I'm stupid? You think I'm this, I'm that? Yeah, whoop-de-doo. You're an awesome leader for doing that. You're a horrible human being because of that. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry you have to go through that. So anyway, aside from that, we're almost up on 3 hours here. It's about 10:30 in the morning right now, and I'm getting hangry. Even though I had my shake, I'm still hungry. It is Sunday, and going to spend some time with the wife. We're going to go do some stuff and kind of get out of the house a little bit. But with that said, I think we beat this thing to death. What we ended up doing is we talked about the crackdown alerts for Korea. We talked about how Korea is cracking down on immigration, visa overstays, and the bans and the fines. The whole 9 yards, sometimes detention and jail time, that stuff comes into play. So we talked about that there. Then we kind of went off script and we talked about a bunch of other stuff. And I got on to the military and POSs that plague our lives with their stupidity and immaturity. So there's that. Don't give them the time of day. The Brave Republic, yes, talking about the meats. It's a possibility, because I like some meat. So I will definitely put that on the list of places to go for sure. So, because that looked like some good meat, and I'm all for some good meat. So, had good reviews too, 4.6 out of 5. So I'm all for trying that. So we'll keep that in mind. And other than that, the only thing I ask is people like and subscribe to the channel. That would be the best thing that you could do for me. I would really appreciate that. But with that said, we have the obligatory outro. There's my email address. If anybody wants to email me, go ahead. I answer all my emails. Whether you just want to say hi, just to rant, vent, show me the smoked meats that you made, 3D printing, whatever it is that you end up doing, hobbies, gym, it doesn't really matter. I'm retired and I don't have a social life. So yeah, I kind of live vicariously through other people, and I appreciate that as well. Yeah, these people bought me coffee. They're awesome. Link in the description box. But like I said, the last thing you could end up doing is liking and subscribing to the channel. That would really help me out the most. And we're going to call it that. With that, MC says, I love your contents. Well, thank you very much. Gives me an out. Helps me with my mental health. Get things off my chest at times. And it is what it is. So with that, we're going to end the video. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for the likes and the subscriptions and everything else. Hope you all have a great day. Never to Murs says, have a great day, Steve. Thank you for all of the content. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. MC says, have a great day. You as well. Hang in there, bro. You can do this. You can do this. Don't worry about it. George pops up and says, have a good one. You too as well, sir, and everybody else that is watching. That is going to be it. So we will see you. And, MC says, thank you for listening. No problem, sir. No problem. Glad to help. At least I can listen. If I could go beat that guy up, I would. But at least I can listen, right? And that'll be it for today. So anyway, like, subscribe. Again, I would really appreciate that. And we will see you on the next video. Peace. We're done. We are done. That was a good one. I love that.